YouTube or listening to us on Spotify. We appreciate you tuning in and joining. And here for another exciting live show. We had the Olympics happen. We have trade rumors going on in the NFL right now. Preseason has started, so we can officially take way too much from guys playing up against backups and guys who will be in Canada in a month and say, this guy will be the next thing, and then reacting to the new Madden and some risky fantasy players. But I'm excited to be here. How have you been? How's your weekend going? And what's the weather like in New Hampshire right now?
It's already getting cold in New Hampshire, so that's cool.
Really?
I went to go for a run in the morning, and it was fucking 58 degrees, and it's
It was
fucking
58 degrees? Really?
yep, lame as fuck. I got the new Madden game. We'll go over that later on in the show. My early reactions, I've played about 2 hours of the game so far, but I will give my reactions later on. And then most importantly, the best part of it all, this is a football show. Football's back. And it's back and better than ever. We got the preseason we'll go over. But we love, I should ask you first. I know for myself, I love my country. I love the United States of goddamn America. Did you watch the fucking USA basketball get their 5th consecutive gold?
Yeah, I saw them get their 5th consecutive gold, and I do agree. I am proud to be an American. I'm proud of my country, especially you look at it, our national animal bird is the bald eagle. How patriotic can you get there? And then I always ask myself, why do I care about the Olympics so much? Why do I care about these games going on? And then I look at the medal count and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I care, because it's a reminder that even if we spend less money, less time than these other countries who have way more people to pick from, a much larger talent pool, I just look at the medal count and like, oh yeah, we still got it. Tied for gold with China, but that doesn't matter because I believe the ending medal count was about 126 to 91, if I'm not wrong. So went ahead and kicked everyone's ass in the medal count. And then one thing we historically always beat people at is basketball. And how exciting is it when we're down bad, not only to Serbia with Jokic, who had shown signs of giving us trouble in the previous exhibition games when we played Serbia twice before, but then we're down bad. We need to get a clutch shot, and who shows up but vintage Steph Curry? It's not just the Steph Curry we've seen the past few years dominate the Kings, but the Steph Curry that has Bam Adebayo, like, at first when I saw him take that shot, I was like, what the hell, man? And then after, I was like, oh yeah, it's Steph Curry. This is what he does for a living. He takes shots over 7-footers falling away, over 2 defenders, hits 18 threes in the last 2 games, I believe. Is incredible to watch it. And I'm glad that Steph Curry was really the highlight of the Olympics, and Steph Curry was the one who ended up bringing the medal home for us. And then seeing some vintage Steph Curry really brought me back, and I got energized, went back and watched the Steph Curry highlight reel. And if you ever need a serotonin boost and you're a sports fan, just put on a Steph Curry highlight reel.
Yeah, no, he was absolutely insane. I'm trying to pull up the stats for how he was down the stretch, but he had 8 threes against Serbia, and then he had 8 threes against Paris.
The last 2 minutes versus France.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people are going to go away with this and be like, okay, so Steph Curry is a top 10 player in the of all time now, which you and I have been on this train for like at least 2 years now, but he's a top 10 player of all time. I mean, how do you not have that gold medal performance? You have 4 rings. You're the reason why LeBron James didn't have or match Michael Jordan. And it's like when you're talking about like all-time great point guards, don't give me fucking Magic Johnson. Like I know Magic Johnson was great in the fucking Coke era, but Steph Curry in the modern NBA with how much he's revolutionized the sport, I think he's revolutionized the sport more than really anybody outside of Michael Jordan in the last 30 years. And so, like, this is like, if this is his swan song with the Golden State Warriors, or just even just with the NBA, this is a great way to go out. Winning a gold medal, the last thing on his bucket list. Now, if he can get another ring, then now we're talking about like great, like GOAT status at that point.
Yeah, you're talking about Steph Curry, like in the GOAT status realm. I don't think he'll ever get that. However, I think we are at that point before with Steph Curry. And my problem with the whole dialogue with basketball now is that Olympics actually matter in your legacy, and it's not just the NBA. And with the Olympics, it's like there's never a reason that Team USA shouldn't win, because who gave us trouble in the game to move on to gold? It was Serbia. They had Jokic and a bunch of players who don't play in the NBA. And then you look at France, it's like they have Wemby, but other than that, you're like, yeah, they have NBA players on their team, when really it's Nick Batum, who's a fine player, and Evan Fournier, who's not even a relevant starter in the NBA anymore. So you look at it, it's like, I really don't think that Olympics should matter for basketball, especially people's legacy, as much as it like is made out to be, when people in the media are like, oh yeah, now that Steph Curry has a gold medal, his legacy is somehow elevated. That was the missing piece. It's like, it's nice at home to say he went and did that and participated, and he was the one who brought it home. However, it's like, I really don't think the Olympics should play a part in your basketball legacy, because it doesn't matter at all. Like, Team USA should win every single year, and there's no excuse for them not to, with how much overwhelming talent they have compared to the other teams.
Yeah, 100%. And um, with the way that they were performing against Serbia, being down as much as they were, I think part of it has to do with the world not catching up, but at least making ground on the U.S. But I also think another part of that has to do with I don't know, the U.S. I feel like because of we've won so many gold medals in a row, I feel like we don't take the Olympics, or at least the NBA portion of it, as seriously, because our roster is obviously better than every other team. I feel like a lot of the times they're sleepwalking for most of the time. And then when they actually have to lock in, they still end up doing it and they still win the gold medal. Because it's been like that really since you really have like the 92 and the 2012 Olympic teams, which dominated everybody. But otherwise, it's been just kind of sleepwalking for most of it.
Yeah, and it did feel like they were sleepwalking, because, like, I feel like they just feel like showing up is going to be enough for them to win, because the talent disparity is so great. And Steph Curry kind of bailed them out in the last two games there. I know LeBron had some good defensive plays, but Steph Curry was the one who hit shots over two defenders, ended up icing the game against France, where they were kind of trailing throughout it. But do you think that this lends itself to the old head narrative that, these kids just aren't Michael Jordan, they don't have that killer in them? Or do you just think it's kind of justified for them to sleepwalk through it?
Um, I think it's justified. I mean, at the end of the day, every 4 years we have. I mean, let's see. If we look at our roster, we probably had how many of them were the top 10 players in the league? Like at least a minimum of four off the top of my head, maybe five. So you have like
Yeah.
the best players in the league by a milestone. Like maybe you'll have a Joker or a Wemby from other conferences and Luca, but for the most part, you have LeBron, you have KD, you have Steph, you have Jason Tatum, who didn't play at all, and that's a whole nother thing. Um, but for the most part, you have like top 10 players. Like the whole team is stacked up against them. So like it's I think it's fair to sleepwalk a little bit. I think I can cut them some slack there.
Yeah. Like, do you think like Olympics should have an impact on your legacy if you play for Team USA, or do you think it should be more, say, for maybe a player like Jokic who doesn't have any NBA players on his team, or someone like Wemby who can take France to the next level, where it seemed like France was always competitive, always kind of pesky, but he could possibly take them to the next level and dethrone Team USA, who's won 4 gold medals in a row now?
I think it's just nice to add to the resume. Like, for example, I'm trying to think of it if I apply it to other parts of the sport. Like, I would compare it to like in the MLB, right? Greatest home run player of all time is Barry Bonds. If he won a home run derby, it would it would help. Like, it's a nice thing to add to your resume. But would Barry Bonds still be the greatest home run hitter of all time had he had not won a home run derby? Yeah, he'd still be the greatest. And I also think on the opposite side of it, like, we use Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony, I believe, won 3 gold medals, and now Kevin Durant has 4 gold medals. Do we think of Carmelo Anthony as a winner or like a clutch player because he's won gold medals? Not really. He still doesn't have a title. So at the end of the day, he's never going to be compared to these guys who have 2, 3, 4, 5 titles. And because of that, he's not going to go down as like the GOAT of that generation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it could like play itself maybe in the hands of someone like a Jokic or Wemby if Serbia could ever break through. But like if we're putting it on the resume of someone like Steph Curry, LeBron, KD for being the all-time leading scorer in Olympic history, then should we hold someone like Luka accountable for not even getting to the bronze medal game when people are trying to anoint this guy the best player in the league last year, say he's better than Jokic and Steph Curry and other prominent figures still in the NBA currently, or someone like a Giannis who already has won a title without a super team?
Um, what was your question there?
Yeah, so like if we're gonna add it to the resume of someone on Team USA, then should we do the reverse with someone like a Luca, where people are trying to anoint Luca the number one player in the league last year, say he's better than Giannis and Jokic when he couldn't even get to the bronze medal game?
I think depending on the roster, right? Like if I look at he's Slovakian, his him and Joker had pretty similar rosters. I think maybe Joker had a slightly better roster, but for the most part, the rosters are pretty much the same. And so you got to look at that point. How much do you elevate? Because Serbia getting a bronze medal and going toe to toe with the U.S. speaks to how dominant Joker is. And with Luca, they didn't even make it to a medal anointment. Like they're gonna get an honorable mention at that point. Like no, I think I think he should be when you're looking at the full picture for Luca, you should look at not only can he not elevate the team for the Mavericks, but also for his um his country at that point. So I think there's something that you can I don't think you should hold it against him necessarily, but I think you should definitely be able to use that as an argument.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think with the Olympics, what it showed is kind of how much people miss seeing Steph Curry, because I think those two games were pretty special with what we saw from him, with him hitting 18 threes in the last two games and then taking over, hitting those crazy 3-point shots like we're used to seeing from him, which begs the question of, is it time for Steph Curry to move on from the Warriors? Because it seemed like the Warriors said they had a plan. They're like, hey, we're going to be young, try and rebuild, but also try and stay competitive, get players like Chris Paul, and then let him walk away for nothing. Bring in Andrew Wiggins and then have him take over and be an improved athletic Harrison Barnes. But now Klay Thompson's gone. You paid Draymond Green, and he's going to be there for a little bit longer. And Steph Curry's kind of looking around and seeing, well, we have players like Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga, but how many years and how many times are we going to keep hearing, oh, they're still young. They need time to take the next step, where Steph Curry's looking at it like, well, I don't have time to wait around for them to take the next step. Do you think the Olympics kind of changes his mind of like, maybe I do want to compete at the highest level again and leave the Warriors?
It's going to be better for the NBA. It's going to be better for Steph. And honestly, it's going to be better for the Warriors if they just break up. I mean, you saw Brady. He spent 20 years with the Patriots. He left. You saw Michael Jordan play for the Wizards. And I can use a million other examples. Peyton Manning played for the Broncos. Like, there's nothing wrong with you leaving Golden State and going to a contender and competing. Because ultimately, if you're looking at somebody who has 4 titles, you've made it to six finals, I believe. What does his legacy do when he has 5? When he has 6 titles? At that point, you're not looking at a top 10 player of all time. You're looking at a top 5 player of all time. You're looking at no, it's not him and Magic as the greatest point guards. It's he's the greatest point guard of all time. Revolutionized the game. Like the conversation He's solidified as a top 10 player all time. But 2 more rings, we're looking at a top 5 player of all time, which is, if you're looking at the grand scheme of the NBA, that's a completely different conversation. Because then you're looking at Mount Rushmore, and you're already going to have Michael Jordan there. You're already going to have Magic and Bird, maybe Kareem. And then you're looking at maybe Steph Curry there at Mount Rushmore. So I think that there's no shame in that. And maybe it's a team like the Mavericks, or maybe it's a team like Denver. Maybe he wants to play with Jokic. Or maybe he wants to play with LeBron, and maybe they both want to win a title together. I'm not sure where he wants to go, but there's no shame in leaving, especially now that Clay's gone, and Draymond probably isn't too far behind.
Yeah, because it was like the meme of LeBron and Steph looking at each other. Like, okay, now that we won, LeBron wins Olympic MVP, Steph Curry hits the shots to bring Team USA over the top now, and they're like, let's go back home to the NBA and compete for the play-in tournament to be barely relevant. It's like, it's sad to see both players kind of in that position when clearly LeBron, maybe he's not a number one on a team anymore, but he's clearly a more than capable NBA starter and star right now in the NBA. Maybe he can't impact the game as much defensively. And then Steph is clearly someone who can dominate a game, where we saw him drop 50 in a game 7 versus the Kings.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think both of them, it's a shame of what they're at this point in their career. Just not necessarily their play, but just the way their teams are constructed. Right now, the Lakers, it's him and an inconsistent Anthony Davis, and then Austin Reeves as your third. And then Steph Curry, it's just like a bunch of really young players. He deserves better. He deserves to be on a really good team. And I can also say the same for Kevin Durant too. Kevin Durant's Suns team was a complete mess, partially, his own doing. But having those 3 players just play in the play-in tournaments is honestly, it's a somber way for them to leave. I'd rather them be competing in Western Conference Finals, competing for titles. I know there's a new NBA that's coming upon us with Luka and Tatum and Anthony Edwards and all these other guys. But these guys I think these guys, there's still room for greatness there, and they're stuck in bad situations.
Yeah, and speaking of bad situations, there was a Miami Heat fan, Dan Lebitard, who tried to drum up some controversy saying that, hey, Anthony Edwards actually likes hanging out with Bam Adebayo, and he thinks Eric Spoelstra, like everyone else, is a good basketball coach, like clearly. So he tried to say that Anthony Edwards is interested in going to the Miami Heat. Now, do you think this is a fan of the Miami Heat who also works in media and sports media specifically, where if you put rumors out there and you're a fan of the team, doesn't really have any backlash on your credibility, and it's just him trying to drum up some drama, even though that Anthony Edwards just signed a 5-year extension?
Dan Lebitard is from Miami. He was the writer for the Miami Herald for the last 30 years. And when he was on ESPN, he was in, you guessed it, ESPN Miami. So, of course, Anthony Edwards is interested in going to the Miami Heat. I can also say LeBron James is interested in going to the Celtics. ESPN Boston reports. No shit. Like, obviously, he's going to say that because you know what he wants? He wants Anthony Edwards on the Heat. And it's just, I think it's kind of lazy. And I also think that it's kind of corny. Like, you can't take that with much merit. Just like when we would see Patriots articles in years past, like, oh yeah, we're going to go after T. Higgins. We're going to go after these big players in free agency. When realistically, Patriots never do that. So I don't take that with any merit. He's there for 5 years. If he were to leave and pull a Paul George, that's kind of disingenuous to the Timberwolves, who have built a pretty good team around him. They competed with the Mavericks last year, and they have a good team. They should still be contending next year. I think that'd be disingenuous for him to do that to Minnesota. At least wait till there's like 2 years left in your contract. Then you can look at opportunities. But he's not going anywhere for at least another 3 years.
Yeah. And isn't it crazy how you can work in an industry like sports media, make millions of dollars for it, but just put out straight disinformation or rumors because you hope it happens for your hometown team. And it's not just Dan Le Batard who does this. The number one talking head on ESPN does this all the time. Oh,
With the Knicks.
I think Donovan Mitchell wants to go to the Knicks. Oh, I think Kevin Durant and Kyrie should resurrect the Knicks. I think that Giannis is coming to the Knicks in the next few years. I think Joel Embiid is coming to the Knicks in the next few years. And people are like, yeah, maybe they're going to the Knicks in the next few years. But it has no impact on your credibility at all. It's ridiculous. Like, you can just say, like, yeah, I think Aaron Donald and J.J. Watt and Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are all interested in coming to the Patriots. Wow.
No way. Yeah, and Patriots fans eat that up. They're like, well, I heard from a reliable source that they all want to go to New England. When realistically, they don't at all. Nobody wants to go to New England. In fact, Brandon Ayuk said, yeah, it's great that you want to make me the fifth highest wide receiver in the league, but it's cold there. I don't really want to go there. Your quarterback situation sucks. You can kick rocks, basically.
Yeah, you can kick rocks, basically. But I will say, I think there is a perception that New England just gives players the ick. And it's just whether it's the NBA with free agency, how the Celtics aren't able to attract free agents, or with the Patriots where we've never had any real star receivers, and most of the stars that come to our team are defense. I think partly the media also has a role to play in this because I feel like people always talk about, well, players don't want to go to New England. And then you just hear repeated so many times that most players see New England in that way because Brandon Ayuk was watching people talking about that for his entire high school period, watching the Patriots when he was younger. And now with Brandon Ayuk, I'm confused exactly what he wants because he doesn't want to go to New England because of the quarterback situation, or he doesn't think he has a great chance to win. But if you want a great chance to win, first of all, the 49ers, great option. Got all the players they have there on defense, Fred Warner, Diamador Lenore. I mean, Nick Bosa is on your team, and you could potentially trade for someone like a Matthew Judon. Then you have all the talent on offense. We know that. But you're worried about the Patriots quarterback situation, but you want to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who might have one of the worst quarterback situations in the league. And some people may say, well, you have Russell Wilson and you have Justin Fields, and Justin Fields and Russell Wilson both haven't gotten a fair shake, but it's kind of both them on the flip side of their career where Justin Fields hasn't done it yet, but he's shown potential. He's been explosive in moments. And then Russell Wilson is a player who maybe has 2 good years left. And by good, I mean maybe he throws for 25 touchdowns and 7 picks. That's a pretty good year for Russell Wilson, but he's still not the same Russ, and he's not a long-term solution. But you want to get locked up there with the $30 million contract for maybe 4 or 5 years when the quarterback situation not looking as good as Drake May is in New England over the next few years. So maybe you're just a fan of that team. I'm just really confused what Brandon Ayuk's whole go behind going to the Steelers is when you're probably still the 3rd best team in your division, because even if you have a better roster, Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson are going to be the difference makers, not Justin Fields or Russell Wilson or Brandon Ayuk, because someone has to get you the ball.
Yeah, and you're also in a situation where maybe you're the number one, but then there's also George Pickens there, who I believe George Pickens is a really good player. And whether or not they're both, I think Brandon Ayuk is a better player at this moment in time, but George Pickens has a lot of potential. But what's going to happen, I don't believe in Justin Fields. I've made that very clear the last several months. I think Justin Fields is a great runner, and he can run really well, but he can't throw the football. You saw that with the Bears having one of the worst passing attacks the last 3 years. And then Russell Wilson, which is everything you just mentioned. He's 36 years old. He was terrible in Denver. He was better last year, but still not great. And then his last year in Seattle, he showed signs of decline. So really what's going to happen is you sign for 5 years. You might have 2 years with these guys or maybe less. And then they're going to be drafting a quarterback. Or maybe they go after somebody who's a pending free agent. Maybe Gardner Minshew wants to go to the Steelers next year. But like your quarterback situation is worse there. Whereas the Patriots, he's used that it's cold and that the quarterback situation sucks. Pretty cold in Pittsburgh too. I have friends in Pittsburgh. Pretty cold in Pittsburgh too. Situation, you're the third best team instead of the fourth. That's cool, I guess. But you're not in a better situation. Maybe the Steelers are better run. There's a better coach there. But like the Steelers are not the ideal situation. You know what the ideal situation is? Being in the Super Bowl, which is what you were in, 7 months ago. Like you were in a better situation. Now, if they're not going to pay you, I get it, but you got to decide whether you want to make money and be the number one or you want to be in a winning situation because unfortunately, you might not have both.
Yeah, and did he actually, like going back to what you said before, did he actually try and use the weather as an excuse?
I
Is
don't
that
know.
real?
I think that's real, but yet again,
Because,
the internet, there's a lot of fake news out there. We'll say it's not, but I wouldn't be surprised.
because like Pennsylvania gets more snow and is colder than New England. Like the Midwest is still colder than New England, as bad as it gets up here, but you get that negative wind chill off the lake. Like Cleveland, it's going to be pretty cold there. Pittsburgh, going to be pretty cold there. So like if those were the 3 teams are rumored, and like honestly, the least harsh winter would probably be New England. And I think they honestly have a better chance to win than the Steelers over the next few years because TJ Watt, as much as I love him, he is getting older and he's been the heart and soul and difference maker of that team. And I think the Bills, Jets have a good opportunity to go sideways over the next 2 or 3 years. So I don't know.
The Dolphins.
I think, yeah, with him going to the Steelers and them having a trade in place, they're still waiting to get the contract back. But I don't know. It's a good fit, but I don't love the quarterback situation. I think Russ will be better than what he was in Denver. But at the same time, the offensive coordinator for your team was the same guy, Arthur Smith, who drafted 3 straight first-round picks on offense and didn't know how to use them.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we'll talk about it later in the show about fantasy players to avoid. I don't want to touch any Steelers player. Even if Brandon Ayuk goes to the Steelers, I'm not interested. George Pickens, he burned me last year. I'm not doing it again. And Najee Harris is like PTSD for anybody who drafted him at any point in his career for the most part, except for maybe his first year. Like, can't trust Najee, can't trust Jalen Warren. Like, you can't trust anybody on that Steelers team, except for maybe the defense.
Yeah, and most people don't play in a fantasy team that has like defensive players, but like the defense, yeah, they'll be a pretty good option for you.
Yeah, and certain matchups there.
Yeah, there's some defensive players unhappy right now. Mostly edge rushers. I saw Hassan Reddick officially requested a trade from New York, so he wasn't happy in Philadelphia when they won 11 games last year. Kind of saw things start to fall apart at the seams. However, he's not happy with the Jets, where like I feel like most teams would have been a downgrade than Philadelphia. So like obviously you're not going to be happy with the Jets. Like
What I don't understand is they traded for him in April. They gave up a 3rd-round pick for him. And he was traded from the Eagles because he wanted a contract. So my question, like this falls on the Jets. This doesn't fully fall on Hassan Reddick, I don't think, because I don't think he asked to go to New York because who in their right mind does, especially the Jets. And in my opinion, and this is the same goes with Brandon Ayuk, with Hassan Reddick, if you're going to trade for somebody who is on their final year of their contract, who is getting traded because they are looking for a new contract, and then training camp comes around and he goes, hey, I want to get paid. Like he should, because he's a good player. What are the Jets doing at that point? Why would you trade for Hassan Reddick and choose not to pay him? That doesn't make any sense. I get you. Maybe you're going all in with Aaron Rodgers. Could be his last year potentially. But you traded for Hassan Reddick. You traded a pretty high draft pick for him just for you not to pay him. And he hasn't even played for you yet, and he already wants to leave. Like, what did you think was going to happen? Of course he was going to ask for a trade, because you know why? He wants money. The same reason why he left Philadelphia, because he wants, repeat after me, money.
Money.
He wants money.
We all love
no
money.
Shit.
We all love it.
We all love money. The almighty dollar is what they call it. He's 29. He's got maybe one big contract left in him, and then he's gone. And then he's going to retire. He's going to ride off into the sunset. Maybe he'll be on ESPN someday. We don't know. But he wants money. So, of course, if I'm Hassan Reddick, I would have done the exact same thing. This is the same guy who has had 10-plus sacks in 4 consecutive seasons. He's a dog. He's great. Great player. Pro Bowler. Of course. What did you expect, New York? What did you expect from Hassan Reddick? A guy who left Philly because he wanted to get paid. You traded for him. So he's like, I'm about to get paid. Let's fucking go. And then you don't pay him. What did you expect? This is all on New York. This is not on Hassan Reddick. I don't want to hear anybody talking shit about Hassan Reddick. He wanted a contract. You traded for him. He didn't get his contract. He wants to get traded again. What did you expect, New York?
Yeah, and it's when I see things like this is what gives me cause to pause about the Jets. I just sit there thinking, we have these weird stories coming out about Robert Saleh. Seems like they didn't deal with Zach Wilson as much of a problem that people may have thought Zach Wilson was organizationally. Didn't seem like they took the right approach to it. They definitely didn't take the high ground with him, and they didn't try very hard to build his confidence. And they were basically like, we don't want to play you, but we have to at this point because we tried playing other guys. Zach Wilson says, no, I don't feel like playing anymore because you don't value me. You benched me for someone you know isn't as good as me. And then after that, you have Aaron Rodgers there, and it's kind of this massive what-if game. We don't know what's happening with the Jets. We don't know how good they could be with Aaron Rodgers, and people are ready to embrace the Jets as a contender this year. But when you start doing stuff this dysfunctional, when the season hasn't even started yet and you already have a player you traded for disgruntled because your organization is so chaotic, it gives me cause to pause to be like, maybe the Jets aren't going to be that good this year. Like with Aaron Rodgers, like how much can he elevate that team? Because we've seen those Packers teams are going to be just fine without Aaron Rodgers. They made the playoffs, kicked the Dallas Cowboys' ass when Aaron Rodgers was hurt. And then it's the first question is Aaron Rodgers' health. Is he going to stay healthy? And then the second big elephant in the room is, are the Jets cursed still? Are they still a cursed organization who's going to do dumb shit to hurt themselves for no reason, like trade a third-round pick? Like a third-round pick for someone, if you go out there and shop Hassan Reddick now, are you going to get a third-round pick, or are GM's just going to laugh at them like, what do you mean you want to trade us Hassan Reddick? How did you let it get to this point when other teams were probably ready to give him a contract and you trade for him? A third-round pick is a big deal. Like, that's a good player in the NFL. And if you want that pick, sure, but you're not even going to put the long-term investment to giving up a third-round pick when a third-round pick could make an impact for maybe 5 years. So you're not going to at least give him a 3-year deal? It's insane.
Maybe more. I mean, that's a wide – I mean, Nico Collins went in the third round. He's going to be good for the Texans for a long time. And I can name a million other third-round picks who have panned out. Like that third-round pick for the Eagles, especially without the Eagles draft, it's probably going to be a starter for them someday. Now, you mentioned a good thing there. Like, are the Jets going to be very good? I have a lot of reasons to be concerned. First of all, of the coaches in that league, like, he's at least the third best head coach, maybe the fourth, depending how good Gerard Mayo is. Then you have Aaron Rodgers, which obviously last year he was 0 for 1, played 3 snaps, and then he died. Like, not literally, but NFL-wise, he literally died. He didn't play for the rest of the season. But the time we saw him before then, He had a losing season. He had the most interceptions he's thrown since 2008, which was his rookie season, first season in the pros. And they were disappointing. And I don't think Aaron Rodgers, like him coming off of a serious injury, some injuries in which some people never fully recover from, is a team that I want to invest in, especially with an offensive line that, yeah, maybe they got a couple of old offensive linemen who are historically good, but still old. And then outside of that, you have all this noise that's been going on throughout there. And then also the curse of the Jets. Some teams just can't help but get in their own way. We saw Cleveland for the last 20 years be terrible with all the dumb mistakes they made, like drafting Corey Coleman. Or the Raiders, who have still, even with a new regime, cannot draft first round picks. And they're a team similar to this situation. I relate to the Hassan Riddick situation to the Antonio Brown situation, except Hassan Riddick isn't literally going insane yet. Although I guess spend more time in New Jersey, maybe he will. So this is a team I don't want to touch. I don't want anything to do with the Jets this year. They might be I can't say they're worse than they might be worse than the Patriots potentially if everything completely collapses. Because they were terrible last year. And now you have Hassan Riddick, who's like, dude, why did you trade for me? You have Aaron Rodgers, who's 40 years old, and then a bunch of old offensive linemen. Your defense will be good. That's great. But how good will they be? I don't like the noise around them.
Yeah. And it's like if everything like collapses, like it's not a huge if though. It's if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt and Aaron Rodgers isn't the same Aaron Rodgers we knew from before. And how frustrating is someone like Aaron Rodgers when you see clips coming out of camp where Aaron's like, "Hey, you didn't run the right route." And they're like, "Yeah, well, you were supposed to be here to help me run the right route. You're supposed to be in OTAs and you decide to go off and take psychedelics." Like, as much as I think Aaron Rodgers has the right to do so, how much sway do you have in that locker room when you're not someone like Tom Brady, who is there in COVID, setting up meetings, having the dedication to building that bond with his teammates preseason and throughout the year? Clearly, with missing OTAs, like that's not something Brady would have done. He won on a new team in the hardest year in the NFL when everyone was kind of remote for film sessions. Like that was the toughest year to win on a new team, and Brady won the Super Bowl that year. It's like Aaron Rodgers isn't Tom Brady, and he's not someone who's had a ton of playoff success over the past few years. And the Super Bowl he won was in 2010. So it's like it's not a huge stretch to be thinking that the Jets aren't going to make the playoffs or they won't be a Super Bowl contender, because I see a lot of people who are actually really high on them right now. And maybe they're 10-7, but I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is going to suddenly not choke in the playoffs, which is what he's shown us to do over the past few years. He hasn't been the same after he lost to Seattle in the most fluky way possible. Sure, it was a fluke, but he kind of mentally crumbled in the playoffs ever since then.
He has a losing record ever since the Super Bowl in the playoffs. He's 7-9 in the playoffs since he won a Super Bowl. And his stats will look good if you look at the numbers, but at the end of the day, like you're still a losing record in the playoffs. Like you're not clutch in the playoffs. You're historically a world beater in the regular season, winning 12, 13, 14 games potentially, and then choking in the playoffs. Like this is something that's become a theme with Aaron Rodgers. He's a 4-time MVP. In each MVP season, he falls short in the playoffs. I mean, we've mentioned this time and time again on the show. He lost to Jimmy Garoppolo, who didn't score a touchdown. He didn't score a touchdown, and he lost. They had one good drive, and then they didn't do anything. It was so frustrating. We give shit to Dak Prescott, and we give shit to all these other quarterbacks who don't perform in the playoffs, when really Aaron Rodgers done the same thing. But Aaron Rodgers should be held to a way higher level because he's arguably a top 5 quarterback of all time. There's no excuse for him not to be elevating his players. No excuse for him not to be succeeding in the playoffs. When you have players who have way less talent around him, who are doing more. Look at what CJ Stroud did last year. CJ Stroud did more last season than what Aaron Rodgers has done the last 5 years at this point.
Yeah, even Joe Burrow, like taking a non-existent O-line to the Super Bowl, beating Patrick Mahomes head to head, being the only guy outside of Brady to do that.
Yeah.
So
give credit to Joe Burrow.
Yeah, so I don't know. I still have a lot of questions with the Jets, but this definitely isn't giving me hope right now. And then the Cowboys are always a team that people have questions about. And I think this is a year where they came into the season with no real plan at running back, aging offensive line. And after the playoffs last year, people were questioning with Jerry Jones keeping Mike McCarthy, which people should still be banging their hands on the table every day that, hey, Jerry Jones kept Mike McCarthy. Yeah, there you go. And this should be the major storyline, and he should be on the hottest of seats. But you see Jerry Jones keep someone like Jason Garrett, not have a plan for the run game this year, even though historically Dak struggles without a run game. And now he has this, I don't know if you want to call it a gaffe or what have you, moment where they're like, hey, CeeDee Lamb contract, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, CeeDee Lamb, I'm not in a rush to get a deal done right now. And you're like, hello? He's the entire offense right now. What are you thinking? The last person on your team not named Micah Parsons, and I'd say CeeDee Lamb's probably more valuable to the team right now than Micah Parsons because he's your only dynamic player on offense. The last person you want to have a hint of pissing off is CeeDee Lamb. It's like now we have to come to a question. If he's going to go out there, say these things to the press, is he becoming too senile to be the owner of the Cowboys? Is this a Joe Biden situation where we have to pull him and Stephen Jones has to have a conversation with him? Do we have to have Obama call the Dallas Cowboys and talk to Jerry Jones? Like, what is going on?
I don't know, but I would think that CeeDee Lamb is probably your most valuable player because Dak Prescott's contract is up. We don't know whether they re-sign him or not. And let's say they don't. You're going to bring in a Trey Lance or bring in a rookie quarterback, and CeeDee Lamb is going to be their best friend because I could name maybe 2 or 3 players that you can put in the same class as CeeDee Lamb. But otherwise, you can say he's probably one of the best wide receivers in the league. Definitely top 5. You can argue him as number 1 for how he played last year if you wanted to. So why would you not want to re-sign this guy? This is a guy who's at the peak of his powers. He's not going anywhere. He hasn't had any injury issues. Last year, he had, 1,800 yards? I'll look it up exactly. But he had a great season, 1,750 yards, 135 catches. He had one of the best seasons, actually, ever, if you look at the numbers there. And that's the guy you want to piss off? What are we doing here? Like, the Cowboys are in a perfect position where the Giants suck, the Commanders are in rebuild, and the Eagles look like they're on the fringe of a collapse with the Nick Sirianni situation. Jalen Hurts hates him. The Eagles look like they could collapse at any time. You're in a perfect position. You have a franchise quarterback, you have a wide receiver, and you have a star player on defense. And you have a really good defense over there as well. You're in a perfect position to own that division for at least a couple of years before people get their shit together. Why would you piss off one of your most valuable players? Unless you're completely losing it. And that's what I think is happening with Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, let's remind everybody, is 81 years old. Okay. He's 81 years old. And he is the same age as our dear President Joe Biden. Now,
yeah.
Are they
Weekend at Bernie Joe?
Yeah, is he the same cognitive ability as Joe Biden? You know, we'll let the comment section decide whether that's the case. He's actually technically older than Joe Biden, but we won't go there. He's older by a month, but that's a conversation. I mean, he's owned the team since the 80s. Last time he owned them, I don't even know if there was the internet yet. I'm pretty sure there wasn't the internet. The life of when he took over the Cowboys to now is a very different world. Pretty sure Bush was president. No, not George Bush. George H.W. Bush, who is no longer with us. God rest our soul. So I think it's a very valid question that we're asking here. Is Jerry Jones too old to be the owner of the Cowboys?
I think you can own a team and be old, like Robert Kraft. You can have your opinions, but you're reserved. But at a certain point, you can't be the general manager, and it can't come down to you to make the decision on who should be the next coach. Is it good old Mike, my buddy, the Milwaukee cop who came to save us from Wisconsin and admitted he lied in his job interview, but I have nachos with him every Tuesday to discuss the state of affairs, and he butters me up, and we have a feel-good conversation? Is it my son, removed from my family, who I found again, and Jason Garrett? Or is it time for a new, fresh face and direction when you look at Jerry Jones and you're like, how could this guy possibly care if they win the Super Bowl or not when he's raking in so much money? He has the number one brand in sports. If he sold the Cowboys, it would be the hottest company anyone could buy. It's one of the most valuable. It is the most valuable sports brand, I believe, right? Is the Dallas
$10
Cowboys?
billion.
$10 billion.
$10 billion.
So you could sell it for $10 billion, or you could give it to one of your sons who maybe wants to prove themselves. It could be a succession situation, but maybe you look at Stephen Jones and say, hey, Stephen, it's your time to take over. You're my Kendall Roy. And it's time for you to prove to me that you can put a Super Bowl team together. But with Jerry Jones now, I don't think there's really an incentive for the Cowboys to win, because how can you not have a run game in place? Like, your only running back is Ezekiel Elliott, and your O-line is aging every year, and you may have to pay Dak $60 million. We're going down a very dark road for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and we said it as soon as they got annihilated by the Packers. We're like, this team's in a lot of trouble, because you have Zeke Elliott who you brought back, and he was not good for the Patriots last year. He averaged 3.5 yards a carry. And then after him, it's Rico Dodal, who has a total of
what?
How many carries? 96 carries for his career. Like, fifth-year running back, has 100 carries to his name. He's your guy. I don't even think they have Deuce Vaughn anymore. I'm trying to find him on the depth chart. I don't even see Deuce Vaughn anymore, unless if Deuce Vaughn is – I don't know what's going on with Deuce Vaughn, but he's not even there anymore. So who does that leave you with? Like, you knew that you weren't going to pay Tony Pollard, and yet what was your plan? You didn't have a plan in place for that? When you knew that he was going to go? What are you thinking?
We talk about the name test on this show. Rico Dodal.
Rico Dodal. D-O-W-D-L-E.
You came up with the name test. You are Professor Brick, Professor Jameson. You have your doctorates. You have your doctorates. You've written many books. You have many documents on the name test. Someone may say you have the best documents on the name test. I looked at them, said, that makes sense, the name test.
It's true.
Rico Dodal, I mean, he's your guy, because if the Cowboys, if it wasn't enough to see Zeke not play well the past 2 years he was with you before he went to New England, like, hey, the year he sucked with New England when Ramondre Stevenson got hurt definitely means he's going to be better with us than he was with New England, because with New England, clearly that guy's not a number one running back for anyone.
He wasn't a number one. Let's just put this into perspective here with Zeke Elliott. And let's keep in mind here, in case the comment section really wants to come at me, I don't have a problem with Zeke Elliott, the person. In fact, I have very great memories with him. 4,000-yard seasons, he's great. But he's reduced his total scrimmage yards each year he has been a pro. Last year, the Patriots were the second worst team in the league. And they said, you're not our number one running back. You're not good enough for the 4-13 New England Patriots to be our number one running back. And Zeke Elliott had 640 yards, 3.5 yards a carry, and a measly 3 touchdowns. They said, you're not good enough for us. So if the Patriots, a team who, let's be honest, are terrible, they were terrible last year, they're probably going to suck this year too, potentially. If they don't think Zeke is a number one, he had a number one. And I guarantee if you called up the Tupperville Panthers, they would say the same thing. They would say, I guess Miles Sanders isn't too bad. This is a nightmare.
Even
Yeah, they got
Chuba
Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard, he's got a cool name. I don't know if he passes the name test, but he's got a cool name that you're at least a supporter of Chuba Hubbard. But Zeke Elliott, Enrico Dodal, and Deuce Vaughn. Those are your three guys, all of which, by the way, have averaged less than 4 yards a carry for their careers. I'll give some credit to Deuce Vaughn and Enrico Dodal. Those guys combined have 120 carries to their career. So maybe they can prove us wrong, right? But no, Zeke Elliott, the fact that that was your plan, getting rid of Tony Pollard, he goes to the Titans, and now you don't even draft a running back? What are you doing exactly? Please tell me. Release the documents because they're clearly under some sort of saran wrap. We can't even see it.
I think he's just trying to fix traffic. He's like, Dallas traffic, a little bit too much on Sundays. You know what? Why don't I make some people move over to Houston, who's actually trying to do something? He's trying to put a team together, who's trading for players. Maybe I'll drive some people out of Dallas, clean up a little bit of the northern Texan traffic here. Like, that would be the only explanation. If they're like, the Cowboys can't be good, we'll have some people move to Houston, clear up a little bit of traffic there. But, like, they had a point about the Patriots where if they don't want you as a running back, or they don't think you're number one, where the Patriots, as growing up observing them the most as any other NFL team, they love to hoard running backs. Like, draft them when they have no reason to. They're like, just in case we need him for one game, we'll have Brandon Bolden as the fifth guy on the depth chart. Like, this is a running back hoarding team, and they just let Zeke go. So what does that tell you as well?
That tells me that he's washed. I mean, he's been washed for a few years. Keep in mind the Patriots, we mentioned how they love their running backs. They signed Antonio Gibson, even though they have Ramondre Stevenson. And they also said, we need another running back because we need more. We drafted running backs in this same draft as well. And we also signed JaMychal Hasty because we need more running backs. I'm like, okay. So the Patriots, who think that running backs are infinity stones, which, by the way, they're not, in case you didn't know that. The Patriots don't want Zeke Elliott. They didn't even blink. They're like, you're gone. Bye-bye. Have fun. Go back to Dallas. But the Cowboys are like, oh, those damn boys made a mistake over there. They're going to go back, and we're going to take our boy Zeke Elliott. And no, nightmare. They're not going to have a good running team at all. And it's going to hurt the offense quite a lot, except for CeeDee Lamb. He'll do great.
Yeah. Do you think, like, the Patriots, well, they acquire running backs. They have a pretty good knack for defense. They're finally opening up the doors to trade Matthew Judon after both sides played the obvious media game where you knew Matthew Judon was going to move on, where Matthew Judon says he's unhappy. The media reports it, and then Matthew Judon's like, I never said I'm unhappy. And then the Patriots say the exact same thing, and then predictably, we're in the situation where the Patriots are opening up the door after they both play their game with the media for Matthew Judon to be traded. Do you think this is the right decision and just business as usual for the Patriots? And do you think this will actually help them long term, or do you think Matthew Judon will play a big role for maybe a contender this year?
If the Patriots are smart, which since Brady left, we can't say they are, but if they are, if you can trade Matt Judon for like a third or fourth round pick and get a wide receiver, I look at the T. Higgins situation as a very good opportunity for them to do that. Then they can, because honestly, their defense is not the problem. And they're good at drafting linebackers. There's a long list of linebackers that they've drafted successfully over the last several years. So, like they still have Juwan Bentley, and they've drafted a couple other linebackers that have been good for them. So he's 31. He's aging. Typically, Patriots are the move off of him 1 year early rather than 1 year late. If you can trade Matt Judon for a wide receiver and a pick, that sounds like a good move. If you can somehow get T. Higgins, because for some reason Brandon Ayuk doesn't want to play for you, then I think that benefits both you and the Bengals. So Matt Judon leaving and going to a contender, Patriots get a receiver on the other side of it and a pick. Beautiful. Business as usual. Business done. Great move.
Yeah. My thing with Matt Judon, I'm like, is this the final piece on top of what the Texans are building right now? Because it seems that the Texans acquire Danielle Hunter, acquire Stephon Diggs, are acquiring veterans to go along with their young talent that complements them very well. See Stephon Diggs coaching up CJ Stroud on the sideline there, pairing him with Nico Collins. We're going 3 wide right now. Once we have all 3 of our receivers healthy here, and we'll have Dalton Schultz at tight end. But then you could also have a dynamic of having Will Anderson, Matt Judon, and Danielle Hunter, or maybe someone like the Jaguars who completely whiffed on Trayvon Walker because they thought Aiden Hutchinson's arms were too short. And that's why we took Trayvon Walker instead, when really they didn't want to be embarrassed by saying, yeah, well, Aiden Hutchinson really didn't want to come here, and he wanted to go to Detroit because that's where he's from and he wants to stay in Michigan. So they had to make up an excuse on why they drafted a bust at number 1.
Oh, completely. And he's been completely useless for them, too. I wouldn't even mind. Yeah, like the thing that worries me if we go to the Texans and the Jags, and I go with the same mindset that I have with them getting a receiver, I see a name that I just sounds like a Patriots player, just like when they went after Mohamed Sanu. There's a world where the Patriots trade Matt Judon to the Texans for Robert Woods and a 4th-round pick. And that's a real world. You know it's true. The Patriots are going to trade Matt Judon for Robert Woods, who is 32 years old and is now the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 receiver on that team now.
Yeah.
And then it gets worse if we look at Jacksonville, too. I just had their depth chart in front of me. I can see them going after. I mean, they have Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk. They're not going anywhere, but going after someone like a Devin Duvernay, maybe. Devin Duvernay I'll take over Robert Woods, but that's what's going to happen if they make a deal with those 2 guys with the philosophy that I have. I see it now.
Yeah, I think it will be business as usual, and people are freaking out that they're trading Matt Judon, but you still had a good defense without him, and they've proven that they can acquire defensive free agent talent even when they can't necessarily acquire the offensive side. So I'm not too worried about Matt Judon leaving. And the real question with the Patriots right now, the biggest question I have is Gerard Mayo. Is he going to be a head coach? I thought it was weird that Bill Belichick said, if you don't bring me, back here, I want Gerard Mayo to be the coach, and it's in my contract. Like, that's bizarre. I don't know if I've ever seen a situation like that, at least in the modern NFL, especially with the Rooney Rule, where we're supposed to give everyone a fair chance. But we'll see with Gerard Mayo. If he's a disciple of Belichick, he should be good defensively. And then you have a question about their offensive coordinator and Drake May. So at this point, Matt Judon, as far as the worry list, is maybe right there at number 10 or 11 with Patriots worries or question marks.
I have a lot of questions with with Gerard Mayo. First of all, he's a rookie head coach. He's taking over like a situation where you have a coach of 20 years. He leaves, and now you're going to be the face of that. Historically, that doesn't work out. If we're looking at the history of it, it doesn't work out that way. And he's made some weird comments over the last couple of months that have shaken my head a little bit. The most recent one, he's saying, like, if anybody fights in practice, they're not going to play in the preseason, which I guess I can understand why he thinks that, but I don't know why. Like, if Drake May gets in a fight at practice, you're not going to play him next preseason. Is that beneficial for you? No. Shut up. Let him fight, as far as I'm concerned. Make it like hockey. It's training camp. It shows tenacity. Lions got in a bunch of fights last year. So did the Chiefs. They turned out pretty good. Fighting in practice doesn't mean shit. Shut the fuck up, as far as I'm concerned. That's nonsense.
Yeah.
He's made some weird comments. And then the Matt Judon situation, he just seems like he's saying the wrong things too often. I am leaning towards not believing in Gerard Mayo, but it's still very early, of course.
Yeah, and the thing is, with Gerard Mayo, for me, a successful season for a rookie head coach is finishing the year strong. So I'm not going to make my assessment if he's a good head coach or not, unless it's a complete disaster. until like week 15, 16. Like, how strong are you finishing out the year? Do you have a chance to push for the playoffs? And is the defense still up to par? And if so, then he's a pretty good head coach. But if it seems like he's losing the locker room, people on the team have the vibe that Belichick made sure that he would be the heir apparent, and it's a bit of a weird situation. I don't know, but there is a lot of question marks in the AFC East as a whole. So hopefully the Patriots can capitalize on that.
Yeah. We'll know that it's going south for Gerard Mayo if they hire like a special assistant for him to help him call plays or just be a coach. Because it's what happened with Nathaniel Hackett. It's what happened with Sirianni last year, and he's not looking too good in Philadelphia right now. If they hire an assistant for him, you know that the writing's on the wall. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, the Sirianni situation is so weird because didn't a story come out about how Jalen Hurts didn't really want to talk to him in pregame meetings, didn't really like being around him at all. And then we have the storyline come out about the bodyguard who got suspended for getting in a fight was the guy who would control Nick Sirianni on the sideline. Like, if you're a head coach and you need a babysitter, huge red flag, especially when he's describing what his coordinators do. Then the media asks, okay, if your coordinators do all of that, what exactly do you do here? And he's like, systems.
Systems, yes, system. He's a good energy guy, I suppose. Yeah, no, I think Sirianni's going to fail in Philly, but they have a good enough team that they'll still be competitive. That's my mindset with the Eagles. But I do think another collapse could be inbound for them potentially. Unfortunately,
Yeah, unfortunately, but we'll see with the Philadelphia Eagles. Another thing I wanted to talk about was they released the top 100 players in the NFL here, and we will spare you the top 100 players. Maybe if you all request it, if this gets 100 views in a week, we'll do a list on reviewing the top 100 players and do a whole stream dedicated for that. But get this to 100 views in a week, and we'll do that. But I want to go over just the top 10 players because that was pretty interesting. Definitely some players out of order and want to get your thoughts on it here. So let me pull that up and I'll start here. I know at number 10, we have none other than Max Crosby. What do you think about that one?
I love Max Crosby. When I talk about my Madden review, Max Crosby will come up again. But Max Crosby is absolutely, if he's not top 10, he's at least top 12 in the league. One of the best edge rushers, underrated as a pass rusher as well. And he's been extremely efficient. And he's also one of my favorite players in the league. He fits the Raiders' identity, and I think him with Antonio Pierce is a great fit. So 10, we like Max Crosby there.
Yeah, we like Max Crosby, especially when you look at it. He's played how many more snaps than the next closest player? He's absolute savage, working out, completely changed his life over the past few years, and then also plays way more than any other player at that position. So for that reason alone, with how elite he is, no problem with him at number 10. Then at number 9, we have none other than Travis Kelce. I mean, how can you argue with that? Best player at his position.
Yeah, I mean, arguably the greatest tight end of all time. Number 9 is fine with him there.
And then at number 8, I think this is a little bit low, but we have TJ Watt.
Oh, no. TJ Watt's a top 5 player. He's a top 5 player in the league, 100%. The way he impacts the Steelers team, you look at the records with and without him, I mean, it's night and day. I don't know who's 7 and up, but I think he should absolutely be top 5. TJ Watt.
Yeah, and we'll get to who he should be above when I go over that, but there's one player on this list specifically that you need to put TJ Watt over. He's in the same division and plays the same position. And then at number 7, we have Trent Williams, offensive tackle for the San Francisco 49ers.
I'm going to have a problem with that there. I think he's a good player, and I think he's the best offensive lineman in football. But I would put TJ Watt ahead of him. I'd probably put Travis Kelce ahead of him. I think he'd be better at number 10, in my opinion. If we're ranking them just these 10, I'd put him at
Yeah.
10.
The problem with these lists is it's hard to argue when you put an offensive tackle there because it's hard to really quantify how good an offensive tackle is in a way that people will understand it because you have to pull a lot of stats out of your ass, like amount of times that the quarterback was pressured on a nickel blitz with someone coming on the blind side. You're like, okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas with Justin Jefferson, you're like, okay, well, the entire defense, when Justin Jefferson is over here, everyone looks over here. And he's someone where you have to think about him on every single play. You have at least 3 guys at all times thinking about where Justin Jefferson is on the field at all times. So I think maybe put someone like a Justin Jefferson there, or maybe put him somewhere right around 10 there. I'm not here to hate on the offensive line, but I think receivers also have a massive impact, and we've seen that over the past few years, especially with someone like Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I can agree.
And then at number 6, Chris Jones, defensive end for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Can't argue with that. One of the most impactful defensive players. Really glad they got a deal done with the Chiefs. What else can I say about? I mean, he's one of the greatest of the sport. So I think that's a good spot.
Yeah.
That's number 6.
Yeah, number 6.
Okay.
But
No
at
problem.
number 5, the reason I hinted at that TJ Watt should not be at number 8, you guessed it, you're wearing his jersey right now, Myles Garrett. In every metric, Myles Garrett is worse than TJ Watt. I'm sorry, but the Steelers have gotten to the playoffs. The way he impacts that team and the amount of defensive players of the year that he's won and the clutch plays that he's made. I mean, last year's Myles Garrett was absolutely incredible, but TJ Watt has consistently been out here putting in work. I think 8 when Myles Garrett is 5 is a little bit too low. I don't know if you disagree because you're wearing his jersey right now, but
I'm wearing his jersey. How am I supposed to disagree? I mean, that's my guy right there. We love Myles Garrett. Big Myles Garrett fan here. I'm going to have to – I agree with that he's maybe more valuable, but I think Myles Garrett is just a freight train. So I don't have a problem. It's – I think putting one above the other, it's hard to argue, but TJ Watt's maybe more valuable, but Myles Garrett's more available.
Myles Garrett's more available. Okay. Yeah, I guess we can go with that argument. And then at number 4, we have Patrick Mahomes at number 4.
What?
For a top 10 NFL players in the league. And yes, there's a quarterback ahead of Patrick Mahomes on this list.
There's no way. There's no way he's number 4. He's winning. He's on the pace to be the first team to go back to back to back. He's the greatest player of this generation at this point. I'm not here to dick ride Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes is, there's no reason why he shouldn't be number 1. That's crazy. And then you said there's another quarterback. Okay.
Yeah, there's another quarterback ahead of him
now. That's
who
crazy.
hasn't made the Super Bowl. But again, Patrick Mahomes, who unanimously the MVP is given to the most valuable player on the team, which should be the best player in the league at that time and the Super Bowl MVP as well. And Patrick Mahomes, it's not even close for any quarterbacks right now to Patrick Mahomes of this era. When I hear about Aaron Rodgers, Roethlisberger, Breeze, Brady, for me, that's all the past. I'm talking about Lamar, Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, the next generation, Josh Allen, like Joe Burrow. With these guys, Justin Herbert, it's not even close. And they're not even close to Patrick Mahomes right now because he's already 3 Super Bowls ahead of everyone right now. And he's beaten the San Francisco 49ers twice in the Super Bowl now. The only quarterback he's lost to is Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow can't stay healthy enough to stop Patrick Mahomes from winning more Super Bowls. Like, it's not even close right now with Patrick Mahomes and anybody else in the league and any quarterback right now, because Brady had, well, Manning has better stats than Brady, but Brady wins in the playoffs when Peyton Manning chokes. Well, Patrick Mahomes has the stats and he doesn't choke in the playoffs and wins more Super Bowls than anyone right now. So it's like if you combine the best of both with the talent of Aaron Rodgers. It's insane.
Yeah, no, it's inexcusable. He should be number one. So now I really want to see who the other three players are.
Okay. So at number 3, we have Christian McCaffrey. Rather have Patrick Mahomes or Christian McCaffrey on your team?
Well, Christian McCaffrey's the best running back in football, arguably the best of our generation. However, he has a calf sprain injury. Let's remind us the injuries that he's had the last time he's been injured, which was a calf sprain, and before that was a calf sprain. The injuries that riddled him in Carolina was you guessed it, calf sprain. No disrespect to Christian McCaffrey. He should be in the top 10 list, but he should not be ahead of Patrick Mahomes in any shape or form, even if he has the Madden cover. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. And it goes down to, and this entire list should come down to, who would you rather have on your team, Patrick Mahomes or Christian McCaffrey? Who's more valuable to their team, Patrick Mahomes or Christian McCaffrey? Like, the Chiefs last season had the worst separation in the NFL, or they had the highest drop rate of the NFL. Travis Kelce being the only dude there. And I was like, this is where Patrick Mahomes can cement himself as a Tom Brady figure, because Tom Brady always had the defense, never had the receiver help, but had Gronkowski. And the only receiver he had was Moss, never won a Super Bowl with them. And now Mahomes has won 2 Super Bowls with nobodies at wide receiver. And Rashee Rice, really good last year, but got himself into a whole world of trouble in the offseason. Like, this is absolutely insane, because no other quarterback would have gotten to the conference championship or the Super Bowl with those receivers.
Do you think that the Chiefs would be potentially the third on pace to have a three-peat in the NFL if they had Carson Wentz starting instead of Patrick Mahomes? The answer is no. Christian McCaffrey, we saw his value in Carolina, and I'm not saying he's not a valuable player. I mean, he was in the MVP race last year, but in Carolina, in a bad situation, he was 5-12, 5-12, 5-12, and then they traded him. San Francisco, he's obviously made San Francisco much better and much more deadly, but a running back's value, like, just doesn't trump a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes. And the Chiefs, if they had their backup Carson Wentz on that team, they might be fighting for a playoff spot. Like, that team looks a lot different without Patrick Mahomes there.
Yeah. And yeah, the thing is too, at number 2 on this list.
Don't say it.
Are you ready for this? Lamar Jackson. Above Christian McCaffrey. That's
crazy. Number 2 is Lamar. Can you remind me? Because maybe it's been a couple of months. What happened in the AFC title game? Can you remind the viewers, in case maybe they forgot, who won that game? Was it Lamar Jackson or was it Patrick Mahomes? Who won that game? Because I remember this game very clearly. Patrick Mahomes played Patrick Mahomes football. Lamar Jackson, though he didn't have a terrible game, did not play up to par. How on earth, as a guy who finally won 2 playoff games in a single playoff run, suddenly he's the hero because he beat C.J. Stroud and then made the conference title game. Suddenly he's the hero, and suddenly he's the second best player in the NFL because he won the MVP scoring 24 touchdowns, which is the least amount in a decade. I love Lamar Jackson. He's probably the second best quarterback in the league. Maybe he's at worst 4, but he's not number 1. And there's no reason. I don't know who made this list, but they're fired. They should go to jail for putting Lamar Jackson ahead of Patrick Mahomes when Patrick Mahomes has better accolades, better stats, is more valuable to his team. Hell, the Ravens, when he was hurt the last 2 years, they were succeeding with Tyler Huntley. Like, sure, it wasn't great football, but they were winning games with Tyler Huntley. I don't want to hear it. Get this out of here. Lamar Jackson is nowhere near Patrick Mahomes. Get Patrick Mahomes at number 1, but at least at number 2. I think I know who number 1 is, so we'll brace the fun.
At number 1, Tyreek Hill.
That's even crazier to me. Look at the
Who'd you think
breakup.
was number one? Who'd you think was number one?
I thought it was Justin Jefferson, to be honest. I don't know where Justin Jefferson. Where in
He's
the world
not even on the list. That's why I said he should be on this list instead of,
Brother.
I don't know, Lamar. If we have
Okay.
McCaffrey over Mahomes, Justin Jefferson is more valuable than Lamar.
Okay, so let's summarize the three players ahead of Patrick Mahomes. Christian McCaffrey, who we beat in the Super Bowl, and by the way, is a running back who needs to rely on blocking to be successful, or at worst, he's a very good receiver. He lost to Patrick Mahomes. Lamar Jackson, he lost and beat Patrick Mahomes, beat him in the AFC title game. And then number one is Tyreek Hill. And this is the one that actually pisses me off the most because let's see who won the breakup, right? Tyreek Hill, he leaves, and he's a world beater for the Dolphins. He has 1,700 yards. He almost breaks the receiving yards multiple times. What do they do in the playoffs? Absolutely fucking nothing. Absolutely nothing. Tyreek Hill, as soon as he steps off the field, Tua throws an interception. This game is over. What has Patrick Mahomes done since the breakup with Tyreek Hill? Let me tell you, it ends with Lombardi Trophy and Lombardi Trophy. He's won 2 Super Bowls by throwing it to couch cushions. And yet, he is above Patrick Mahomes for best player in the league. Look, Tyreek Hill, top 5 player in the league? Absolutely. Hell, you could put him number 2 and I wouldn't care. But the breakup, Patrick Mahomes has won the breakup. That's even with Tyreek Hill going parabolic with Tua. Fuck, this list is trash. This is a garbage list. I don't know who wrote this.
This is the official top 10 out of the NFL.com top 100 players.
Okay, so I forgot that the NFL legalized crack because that's exactly what just happened there. That is insane. This list is trash. NFL, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, I don't understand how Justin Jefferson isn't on this list because a lot of people think, and not just me, not just you, but a lot of wide receivers say that Justin Jefferson is better than Tyreek Hill. Now you can look at Tyreek Hill, say he's the most dynamic, most electric player in the league. I get it, but a lot of receivers will compare him and Justin Jefferson neck and neck, and Justin Jefferson definitely deserves a spot on this list. But also, everyone unanimously says that Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the league.
He's the best quarterback, which is the most valuable position in the NFL, and he's won 3 Super Bowls. He has more Super Bowls than anybody else on this list. What are we doing here? Like, this list is trash. This is a terrible list. This NFL should be ashamed of themselves. They should give away NFL premium for us having to bear witness to this god-awful list.
Yeah,
Shame.
and it's like, you were with me like 10 through 5, and then once we got to 4, and you hear Patrick Mahomes himself, it's like, you completely lost me.
That's
completely
craziness.
Lost me.
What a nightmare.
A game that kind of lost you because you were lost in the lights. I don't know if you're listening to The Weekend in your free time. You were blinded by the light. Everyone talking about college football. You went out there, paid full price for it. Maybe it was on Game Pass. I don't know. But let's imagine you paid the crisp $59.99 for it and didn't live up to the hype. Then you ended up saying, okay, I'm going to play Madden next week when it comes out and see if it holds a candle to the greatest sports game in history. I've never seen a game like this in my life. It somehow managed a way to be so annoying. I had to turn the sound off. That's how annoying this video game was. So bravo to college football. Good for you. You bah, bah, bah. So you're like, all right, I'm going to get Madden next week, and we will find out which one is the true football game. So which is it? Is it Madden or is it college football?
All right. So I just want to preface while I do this review, I spent 2 hours with this game, and it hasn't. I have it because I have early access because I pre-ordered it. But give me 3 weeks, and I'll give my full review. But my 2-hour early reaction, a couple of things with this compared to college football that I want to shout out. First of all, not that it's very hard, but the soundtrack's so much better than college football. You know why? because I can listen to it while I'm playing the game, and I don't want to make out with a shotgun when I do it. So that's one thing.
Christ.
So soundtrack's way better. Soundtrack's actually really solid. Probably the best soundtrack that I've had for Madden in probably about 5 years. And then the presentation, like it feels like you're playing the actual, like you're watching a football game, but you're playing it in real time. I've decided that for this year, last year it was the Cleveland Browns because their salary cap was an absolute nightmare. This year, I really like what the Raiders are doing. So I'm going to be rebuilding the Las Vegas Raiders, building them up to supremacy. Gardner Minshew, what will Gardner Minshew do? That remains to be seen in the Madden lore. But
Yeah.
franchise mode, super slick. I really like it so far. The scouting, they've improved a little bit. The presentation is really solid. Now you have different announcers if you so choose. Like Greg Olson's in the game now, which is really nice. They have
Do they have
one
the
announcer.
Sunday Night Crew?
Yeah, they have the Sunday Night Crew.
Hell yeah. That was always my biggest complaint with Madden. I'm like, why is it Greg Anthony and I forget the other no-name person, or before it'd be like Phil Simms. And I was like, I don't want to listen to Phil Simms. But the fact that they have the Sunday Night Crew on there, that is a huge step up. I know a lot of people don't like Collinsworth, but I think he's still better than anything we have out there until we hear Tom Brady.
Yeah, Greg Olson, really solid. I will say they added another announcer. I'm forgetting their name, but I don't know if you don't follow baseball much, but there's an athletics announcer who is terrible at their job. They added some version of that to this game with the other announcer that they added.
Joe Buck.
I don't know. Huh?
Joe Buck.
No, not Joe
calls
Buck.
baseball and football.
Joe Buck gets too much hate. I don't know who the other announcer is. I'll have to find them for when I do the full review, but that announcer's terrible. It sounds like a 12-year-old boy. But other than that, announcement crew, nice improvement. They have the same guys, plus they also added a few others, so it's very nice. Franchise mode, which is the thing I care the most about. Looks like it's a pretty good improvement. The scouting is better. The presentation's better. You actually have I had there's different messages with these people that you can talk to the media and they ask you questions, and it feels like a reminiscent of the old Maddens. Like the Maddens, I mean, from the early 2000s. I'm like, okay, it seems like they're actually maybe trying now. That's good. That's a step in the right direction. And then I started a superstar mode. Granted, I haven't transferred over my quarterbacks for college football yet, but as soon as I do, college football, you're dead to me. I made a wide receiver, good old Zork Jameson, little slot receiver, just like a Julian Edelman build. Went through the draft, did the draft combine, which they had in these last few Maddens. And then I go through the draft interview, and who else but Andy Reid interviewed me. I was like, oh, Andy Reid. What's up, Andy Reid? You got questions for me?
The Kool-Aid man.
The Kool-Aid man, Cheeseburger Boy. He asked me the questions, and I answered it. And then on draft night, I had a couple other interviews as well. On draft night, I get a call from Andy Reid. He's like, hey, do you want to play for the Chiefs? I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to play for the Chiefs. Let's fucking go. So now I'm a slot receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. I've stepped in for where Xavier Worthy was drafted. I'm like, you know what? Sick. I like this so far. And I don't play Ultimate Team because I'm not going to spend my paycheck on fucking Madden. I've learned my mistake with 2K in the years past. Ultimate Team is a dumpster fire. But so far, running mechanics better, the presentation's better, franchise is better, college, the career mode is better. That's enough for me to be like, you know what? This is going to be fun. Give me 3 weeks and I'll have a full review on it and what my issues are with it. But I think it's better than college football. I think college football is extremely overrated. And I think that Madden is a game that gets way too much hate because people have been playing it for 20 years. Madden gets too much hate, and I think that they put enough effort in this game. I think this is the best Madden that I've had since 2007. I think that's the last Madden that I can be like, this is actually it's a really solid Madden.
Yeah, I think that even just something as small as the commentator update, they still need to catch up to 2K with having the all-time teams, having the classic teams that you can play as. But I think overall as a whole, definitely sounds like an improvement, especially with having the commentators on there. So excited to check that out when it comes out. But yeah, definitely looking forward to playing the new Madden there. I'm sure everyone else is at home as well. I played 2K the other day, and I didn't realize this, but Bob Cousy is the most OP player in 2K of all time.
It makes no sense because he's a plumber. Bob Cousy's a
Yeah,
plumber,
he's a
and he
plumber, but they're like, even though he didn't play with the 3-point shot, they gave him an A plus, and he has the easiest form to use in the game. His step back three is easier than anyone else. So I've been playing as the all-time Celtics. So I put Bob Cousy at point guard, Jason Tatum at shooting guard, Larry Bird at small forward, Garnett, and Bill Russell. Unstoppable.
nobody's stopping that team. That team's crazy.
So, but yeah, Bob Cousy of all players. Did not expect that. And then I just got Lego Star Wars for free on PlayStation.
Nice. Which one?
All of them. It's like the entire Skywalker saga. So they put every single movie outside of Rogue One and like the spin-offs, but all the Skywalker episodes you can play through on a game, and it was just free on PlayStation Plus. So been playing that a bit, and the graphics are really good, and it's kind of funny because it's almost a parody of Star Wars, but they acknowledge it.
As they should. I mean, Star Wars is a parody of itself at this point, so I think it's very fitting.
Yeah, it's so disappointing. It's show after show after show. And the people, did you watch this? You watch Disney Plus Star Wars show? Like, just let it die. It died.
Okay.
It died with the rise of Skywalker. We all knew it was dead as soon as Disney got it, but it's been dead. Let it go.
And it's just not worth the juice ain't worth the squeeze anymore. Just like now we're entering into fantasy football season, and some of these players, like obviously you're going to have the Patrick Mahomes, who is the number one player in the NFL according to the Brickyard. But some of these other players that are lingering around that are drafted super high, juice ain't worth the squeeze on these guys. So we're going to shout out a couple of players who are just not worth it in their mind, just where they are with their ADP, wherever it might be. Don't risk it for them. Don't risk it.
Yeah. So I have a few risky players here and their average round that they're being drafted in, and let me know if you think those players too risky to draft or you feel comfortable taking them. And at number 6, we have Devon Achane going at number 11 in round 2 on average.
See, I disagree with this notion because the people who are arguing this are saying Raheem Mostert and then their rookie running back. Raheem Mostert is 32. He had 18 touchdowns last year. He's bound to have a touchdown regression. I think Devon Achane, like, if he can stay healthy, he's super quick. He fits the offense. I disagree with this one. I do think Devon Achane is going to be really solid. I'm going to take the risk on him potentially.
Yeah, for me, there's too many questions with the Miami Dolphins offense, and with him getting hurt last year, that was part of the reason why Raheem Mostert dominated. So I think with me, running backs, when they're already getting injured in their rookie years, that's always a question for me. And how much is there to go around with the Miami Dolphins defense if they're not scoring 70 points like they did versus the Denver Broncos? And we'll see if they do that again. But definitely a risk because he seems more like a big play reliant running back than someone who will kind of get you 10 to 15 carries for 100 yards and a touchdown consistently. Because I think he'll have some weeks, will he get you 30 points? For sure, but for taking him in round 2, do I think he'll get you a consistent 15 every week? I'm just not sure.
That's fair. I mean, that offense, their offensive line, I think is still a question. They have some decent offensive tackles. Like they got Isaiah Wynn and Teron Armstead. Offense is always a question. I think if the running back, like if people are worried about Raheem Mostert, I'm not worried about Raheem Mostert. He's 32. I think he's bound to regress a little bit. He should be their number one, but you should ask about like what's his receiving upside, what's his touchdown upside. Because ultimately, if you're in a PPR format, those are the two things that matter. And I don't know if he's a big receiving back. like he should be.
Yeah. Also, history buff Jameson. When a player has a record amount of touchdowns, what do they usually do the very next year? A la James Conner, a la, the top running backs in fantasy. Do they usually repeat and go out there and get 18 touchdowns again? No, never happens.
They nearly never do. In fact, one of these guys last year had the same problem. I mean, James Conner. Let's look at James Conner's touchdowns from year to year, right? He had, looking at it here, he had 20 touchdowns the year prior, and he regressed this past year. Granted, he still had 18 touchdowns. James Conner just was the offense for the Cardinals when Kyler was gone. But I think of like Jamal Williams, for example, who, friended the show. He had, I believe he had 16 touchdowns with the Lions. He went to the Saints and he had one. And the one touchdown he had was supposed to be a kneel down, but Jameis Winston said, no, we're going to give him a touchdown. Like, touchdown regression is going to happen with Raheem Mostert. And I think he'll still be effective for them, but I don't think 18 touchdowns is what you can expect. He had like 4 touchdowns in a game. It was insane.
Yeah. And that's probably when they get 70 points. But yeah, so Raheem Mostert, don't think he'll be a huge impact to Devon Achane. I just have other questions about him and his consistency to take him that high. And then at number 5, we have Drake London. He's going currently at the 11th or 12th receiver on average in each year's fantasy draft. Do you think having Arthur Smith away will help him? And do you think not having Desmond Ridder and Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix potentially there will be a difference maker? Do you still think Drake London's kind of a so-so receiver, maybe not enthusiastic about him on your team?
See, like, I think he'll be the best option in Atlanta because you look at the rest of the Falcons receivers, it's like his second receiver is Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod. The problem is that Kirk Cousins is coming off of a pretty serious injury. He's 36. And the last, honestly, really since like the Washington era, he's had great receivers, whether it's Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, TJ Hawkinson, Jay Jeff. Like, the receivers he's had the last 4 years have been exceptional. And now you're going into a situation where Drake London on any of those teams would have been the third most likely. Not a disrespect to Drake London. I think he's good, but like 12th receiver, I think they're baking too much of Kirk Cousins stock in that. When he's getting older, he's coming off of a serious injury, and I don't know. I don't trust it. I think he's a little too overvalued.
Yeah, I don't really trust it either there. So I would have to pass on Drake London right now, especially I think he'll have a lot of attention to him, but maybe he's one of those players you look at his team on the flip side and you're like, maybe Drake London is a good option because he's not going to have as many people like around him that could potentially get targets, but he's just not that dynamic player that you would want a number 1 receiver to be. Would be the question you have to ask yourself.
Yeah, I'm sure other people are also going to be looking at Kyle Pitts and see if Kyle Pitts ever pans out.
Yeah, if Kyle Pitts ever pans out. And then also we have Nico Collins here. He's going in round 3 at about wide receiver 15. Concerns are having 3 other receivers there, plus Dalton Schultz, making an impact with Tank Dell coming back, Stephon Diggs. But I think Nico Collins proved his connection with CJ Stroud last season, and I think he's going to be the consistent guy to go to outside of Stephon Diggs. So I don't really have a problem taking Nico Collins. Do you?
No, I think he's the number 1 at this point. I mean, like, Stephon Diggs is a bigger name, and I think if Stephon Diggs can have a better season than last year, then he'll be the one. But Nico Collins has a better connection with CJ Stroud. Anytime they're switching over to a new organization, that offensive change, those first couple of weeks can be tough. And I think that, if anything, I think Stephon Diggs is more of a risky pick because he's older, because we saw him decline the last 9 weeks of the season last year. If anything, I'm more worried about Stephon Diggs than I am Nico Collins. Nico Collins will be just fine. Maybe he won't be, he had 1,300 yards last year. Maybe he has 1,200 or 1,100, but I'm not as worried about Nico Collins. I'm more worried about Tank Dell, who's coming off an injury, and Stephon Diggs, who's aging. And Dalton Schultz. Don't even talk about Dalton Schultz. And like, who cares? Dalton Schultz is going to get like three or four targets a game. I'm not worried about him at all.
Yeah, and I think Nico Collins, like even with Stephon Diggs there, I think he'll still get his, and CJ Stroud will be able to get him the ball, especially with playing that 3-wide dynamic offense. But yeah, depending on the league you're in, he might have to be your one, but I think he'd be a really solid option at 2.
Yeah.
And then we also have DJ Moore on this list with Chicago, which I don't know why you would say this when you have Keenan Allen there, right? He's the veteran guy. And then you have Rome Odunze, who's supposed to be the rookie receiver, and maybe he'll be the number one option. But DJ Moore proved last season he's still an explosive player, and he's probably just where the point he is at his career, probably the most polished receiver on that team and explosive right now. I think he's going to have the best year of his career if Caleb Williams is what he's supposed to be and what he showed he could be in the first week of preseason.
Yeah, honestly, DJ Moore and Terry McLaurin have like similar careers where they've had terrible quarterbacks throwing it to them. He had Justin Fields last year who can't throw the football downfield, and he had 96 catches for 1,300 yards last year. Like, for a team that barely threw the football last year, that's insane. And now you have somebody who's getting compared to Patrick Mahomes as the rookie quarterback. Like, Keenan Allen, I'm not worried about stealing targets from. Roma Dunze, I think, will have a nice connection with Caleb Williams, but DJ Moore, I think, is at this point the best receiver on that team for this point. I have to wait until I see Roma Dunze, but that team, with the way that team's going to be designed, like, I don't think it's going to be what it's been in years past where it's run heavy. I don't think they're going to be leaning on DeAndre Swift. I think it's going to be a lot more of a heavy passing attack. I think all of them can eat. So I think DJ Moore and Roma Dunze and Keenan Allen will all have good seasons.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely plenty of room to go around with the Chicago Bears on offense this year. So I would still be fine with DJ Moore as my number one if I'm in a 12 to 14 team league. I think that would be fair. And then after that, they put CJ Stroud on this list of someone we should be concerned about when we're going 3 wide, 1 running back, 1 tight end. I think CJ Stroud is clearly primed to take a leap forward when you add a top 10 receiver, build a connection with Nico Collins, have Tank Dell returning. Is Robert Wood still there? I believe so. Dalton Schultz and Joe Mixon, who's great at taking those little flips out of the backfield. He's a great screen running back, and yards after the catch is also somewhere where Joe Mixon thrives as well. So then you look at it, I don't think CJ Stroud is a quarterback who you should fade in fantasy.
What's their reasoning for fading him?
Let's see. After a sensational rookie season in which he finished as QB9 in total fantasy points, Stroud is now being selected as the 5th quarterback off the board in 2024 fantasy drafts. Currently early in round 5, that's a very hefty cost for a non-mobile quarterback entering his 2nd year as a pro. CJ Stroud is a great talent and highly expect him to have an excellent sophomore campaign. But does that mean he's a top 5 fantasy quarterback? Dun, dun, dun. In fact, CJ Stroud finished as a top 5 QB in 2 weeks last season. During week 1, during week 9, he threw 5 touchdown passes. In week 12, he threw 2 and had a career high 47 rushing yards. Okay, so basically they're saying he's only a top 5 quarterback twice last year, but he also didn't have help last year on offense.
This is the reason why I can't get deep into like the fantasy football ecosystem, because people overthink it. Think about it. Joe Burrow, his rookie season, right? Obviously, he was sacked a million times. He got hurt, but he added Jamar Chase in the draft. And then he ends up being a top 5 quarterback in the league because he added a top 5 wide receiver. Stephon Diggs is not a top 5 wide receiver, but he's a top 10 wide receiver. And you have Nico Collins, and you have Tank Dell, and you have Dalton Schultz, and you have Joe Mixon, and you have a defense that's going to get stops and give you more possessions on offense. Stop overthinking it. CJ Stroud will be a top 5 quarterback in the league. And honestly, he's one of the sleeper picks, if anything, because people are overthinking it. No, CJ Stroud is going to be exceptional. I don't care about his running abilities. He's going to be exceptional. He could potentially throw for 5,000 yards, if not at least 4,500.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, depending on your fantasy philosophy, he may be overrated too. Like for me, I typically wait for a quarterback for maybe round 6 or 7. I'll try and get someone like Matthew Stafford, like Jared Goff, who people aren't going to pick right away and they're not too enthusiastic about, but they'll give me a consistent 20 and then they'll have a few weeks with 30. That'll put me over the top. But I think with CJ Stroud, I think he'll definitely be a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year because he finally got extra help. Tank Dell will be a year older. So I don't think that's the case. And the pick after this is even more bizarre because at number 1 for risky, overvalued picks is Dalton Kincaid.
What?
Because my question is, what other help do the Buffalo Bills have besides Dalton Kincaid and an old Dawson Knox? It's mind-blowing. Like, he's the only option Josh Allen has for an explosive player.
They have like Khalil Shakur, Kean Coleman, who's a rookie, Curtis Samuel. Like, that's it. And then like Chase Claypool's out for the season. That would have mattered anyways. But like, they don't have any help. And they're trying to be, I mean, they're going to be a little bit more run heavy, it sounds like. But Dalton Kincaid should be the one with the most targets. He's going to be Josh Allen's Travis Kelce potentially. Like, Dalton Kincaid should not be a risk. If anything, if you're targeting a tight end later in the draft, like, you're going to have your Kelce's and Laportas leave. You're going to have Kincaid there in like the 7th or 8th round. It's a great value pick. I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a pretty bad list for risky picks. But what would some of your picks be this year? Maybe like a running back, a receiver, or a tight end that you kind of hear their name. They've been a dominant fantasy player, but you may shy away from them. Maybe someone like a McCaffrey or a Saquon that people always hype up, but just have some mileage on them.
I'm worried about Christian McCaffrey. Not because I don't think if he plays a full healthy season that he's going to have any sort of fall off, but he has the Madden curse against him. He has the Super Bowl curse against him. He is an older running back. And in training camp, he had a calf sprain. And if you remember his injury history with Carolina, it was a calf sprain, which hurt him year out. 2019 season, he was exceptional. And then the 2 years following that, he suffered with the same injury. So I think you should still take him. But at the end of the day, like, he's somebody that has a lot of risk for me, for somebody who, and also not only that, the 49ers, I think themselves have their own risk with a Super Bowl hangover. So he's somebody that I have my concerns with. I have a couple other running backs that I would shy away from as well. That might be less obvious, but Christian McCaffrey is somebody that I would put an asterisk there. Plus also the the running back 1 scenario, they're never usually the running back 1 the following year. So that's a risk that also is there.
Yeah. Do you think this year someone like Travis Kelce or AJ Brown may take a step back?
Travis Kelce for sure. I mean, he was contemplating retirement last year, and they got better weapons this year. So you're going to have Hollywood Brown, although he might be out for the first part of the season. Rashid Rice is going to be a year older and more experienced, so I think Rashid Rice will be good. I also think Xavier Worthy is going to be really good eventually. So that's a guy that I would have my concerns with. But with who else is available on the board, I think, you'd proceed with caution, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And those are 6 players that you're kind of concerned about, and we did have the first week of preseason this week. Was there anything that jumped out to you with preseason? I know I have a specific question for you about preseason after you give your thoughts, but anything you liked, anything that you didn't like this preseason, week one?
Yeah, so we got to see a lot of the rookie quarterbacks and got to see a little bit of footage from them. For the Patriots, Joe Milton outperformed Drake May. Granted, Drake May only played, I believe, one drive, but Joe Milton played exceptional. He looks like he should absolutely be over Bailey Zappi at least for the Patriots. Caleb Williams made exceptional throws, so I think Caleb Williams has lived up to his hype, although I want to see him in a full game. Bo Nix. I've been really mean to Bo Nix over the last several years, and Bo Nix looked pretty good in his debut. Granted, it's the preseason. He'll have to prove it to me in the regular season. Bo Nix looked pretty good, so maybe he has the documents and he heard the hatred that we had for the 97-year-old quarterback, Bo Nix. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. And then those are my big feedbacks as far as them. And then there's a couple of nice runs from a couple of running backs. I'll have to title them there. The Giants, I'll have to get their exact name there because I just saw his jersey number. But Tyron Tracy and Eric Gray, those are the running backs for the Giants that stood out to me. They had some really nice runs. So I think, who knows? Tyron Tracy's hurt, so he might not be playing, but Eric Gray could make some noise.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I know he had 4 interceptions. We know, but he also had the play of the first week of preseason, and he finished the week off right. Can we give it up for Stetson Bennett? Back from rehab, back to the Rams. They said, Carson who? Carson, go to Kansas City because back from rehab is Stetson Bennett. He finally left. He's back with the Rams now, and he threw not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 interceptions and came right back with the game-winning drive. If that's not moxie, that's not spirit, team spirit, if that's not someone who you can look at and believe in after everything he's overcome emotionally in his personal life last season, and now he's the secret weapon for the Rams in case Matthew Stafford goes down. Absolutely electric stuff from the star-studded Rams. Young quarterback, Stetson Bennett. I mean, what a play.
Stetson Bennett fan club over here. And the fact, honestly, it's impressive that he threw 4 picks in limited time, but also it's impressive that he also had the game-winning drive. So give him some more tape, give him some more footage, and I think he'll be back to his Georgia self very soon.
Yeah, hopefully he's back to his Georgia self. Also, one thing I noticed this week of preseason was watching like the top 100 plays, watching the highlights for all of the games. The kickoffs are so much better than they have been over the past few years. The NFL just says no more kicking it through the end zone. The kickoff is a football play, so let's actually play the play that we kick off. How about we return it instead of it going into the end zone every single time? And you know what happened? We got a lot of really good kick returns on this play. I don't care if you want to implement a rule where on kickoffs, if we're going to incentivize people to return, you have to wear a guardian cap on it. I don't care. But actually seeing it be a play where you can make an impact, how it can flip a field, how it impacts the game, where it's been the past few years of Steven Gostkowski walks up to kick the ball off and kicks it through the end zone, and they take the touchback. Like, okay, let's make it exciting again. This isn't baseball. This isn't golf. This is football. This is the greatest sport ever invented to man. You know?
Exactly. And think about a guy who was just inaugurated in the Hall of Fame, Devin Hester. We've been missing out on what could be the future Devin Hester with these kickoff returns because they just keep moving it further and closer to the end zone so that it's always a touchback. I don't give a fuck about player safety at this point. I want to see some fucking tackles. I want to see some fucking touchdowns. I want to see some fucking hits. The kickoff return. Like a good kickoff return will set you up with a fucking really nice play field position. Right now, it's just been we're kicking it off, and we'll be starting at the 25-yard line. Fuck that. I want to see. I want to see plays. I want to see action. It's the reason why I'm watching football. God damn it.
Yeah, we want to see action. We want to see plays, and the plays here were definitely incentivized. And I thought the kickoffs were a great play. And speak of the new Madden, like there's already people exploiting that with double reverse to Tyree Killer, Jalen Waddle, and then teams will also start to get more creative on these kickoff returns as well. So let's see some more laterals. Let's start to see some more creativity, and I think we'll get that. NFL listens to its fans, and I think Roger Goodell gets far too much hate because I think by far he's been the best commissioner out of the four major sports, and he's probably the best commissioner of a sport outside of maybe Dana White, what some people would argue, but it's definitely a different vibe with like a major team sport versus just organizing some fights one-on-one.
Oh yeah, I think of the four major sports. I mean, sure, the punishments and there's been a couple of scandals here and there, but for the most part, I mean, the NFL has continuously grown since he took over in '06, and they've made the product better since then too. And it's continued. I mean, the ratings have continued to be great. Like every other sport has had their own issues, whether it's connections with China or like the NBA has had their issues with forming teams, super teams that have ruined the league. Baseball, don't even get me started with how much they hate their team, their fans, and then who cares about hockey? So Roger Goodell, I think he gets similar to Madden, gets too much hate.
Yeah, definitely gets too much hate, but I was excited by that, especially seeing, some entertaining kickoffs. It's just another part that football was missing over the past few years. Then we also had some injuries this week that were relevant. I think we had Jahmyr Gibbs go down. JJ McCarthy is getting surgery to repair his MCL. So, you know what that means. We're going to see a lot of
Ghosts.
Sam Darnold for the Vikings, and no one asked for it. It's probably something that Roger Goodell should have stepped in and said, no, get another quarterback so Sam Darnold doesn't have to play, so we don't have to hear about our players seeing ghosts on the field, because that was an embarrassment to the entire league that someone like that would be playing in the NFL and then say they were seeing ghosts. But JJ McCarthy, MCL injury, are you concerned about that, or did you think he should maybe sit out a year anyways?
I don't love the injury by any means. I don't think that's going to help his development. But now we know that he's most likely not going to play this year. So he can look behind Ghostbuster Boy and, look up and know that he's not going to play, not because he can't play, but because he literally is physically impaired and cannot play at all. So I think that could be beneficial. I kind of wish that they had more of like a veteran presence there outside of Sam Darnold, but I think that it'll be nice to have him there. Yeah, I mean, they have like Nick Mullins and stuff, but be good for
You
him
know
to
what it
just
is with
take
Sam
the footage.
Darnold?
What?
I think Sam Darnold was brought in to give JJ McCarthy confidence because he's like, oh, at least I can't be that bad.
Hey, there's still Sam Darnold believers. Somewhere in LA County, Colin Cowherd is licking his chops, excited, probably putting a fat parlay on the Vikings. So somebody out there, just know that no matter how much you love your friends and family, somewhere out there, Colin Cowherd loves Sam Darnold more than them.
I
So
don't
know that.
understand it. There needs to be a study done on this. I don't know if Sam Darnold Epsteined Colin Cowherd and has dirt on him to make him continuously talk about him, but every time there's a hint of Sam Darnold, there's a whiff of him in the wind. I was like, underrated player, never got a fair shake. And it's like the underrated Sam Darnold, and the only time people talk about him being good is at the end of the last game of the regular season. Wow. See how he ran the offense down the field? He was confident. I like that. He's also quarterbackial, looks the part, says all the right things, which in the end doesn't matter if you're not good at football.
Yeah. No, I agree. He's the most touchdowns he's scored in a season is 19. And I mean, I know he's played on the two worst teams in football with the Jets and Panthers. And then I know he played for the 49ers last year, but it's not like he's had great. He's been in pretty horrible situations. Vikings, maybe this will be his Geno Smith arc, but I doubt it. I don't believe in that.
No, not at all.
I don't,
Any
I don't believe
other
in
major injuries this week we should be concerned about?
that. Those are the big ones there. Um, JJ McCarthy, you mentioned Jameer Gibbs. Um, I can't think of any that popped up to my. Malik Neighbors got banged up. He got an ankle injury, um, which is not good because he is going to be their. He should be their number one. Um, so that's one.
For the Giants.
Yeah. Zadarius Smith got banged up as well. I think he should be fine, but Zadarius Smith got banged up. Hollywood Brown got banged up. He's gonna most likely miss the beginning of the season.
That's a big loss. I think he'll be good because a lot of people forget that the Chiefs got Hollywood Brown, and you may hear Hollywood Brown and say, oh, well, he's not a great number one NFL receiver, but he's a very, very good NFL receiver. And when you pair him with someone as Patrick Mahomes is the number one player in the NFL, and you have Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, and a bunch of other really talented players on offense, I think Hollywood Brown is going to thrive in the system. So if you can kind of keep him quiet at the beginning of the season, then he's going to be your secret weapon. I don't think that's the worst case scenario, but definitely don't want to see him injured.
Yeah, no, I don't want to see him hurt either, and hopefully he has a speedy recovery. If he can come back for the first quarter of the season, then I think he'll be super productive for him.
Yeah, he should be productive there. But other than that, I think some injuries too come on the radar because teams just don't want to play guys in the preseason, so they just list them as an injury, then no one questions it.
Yeah, exactly. But we're entering week 2 now of the preseason, so some interesting sights. I'm excited to see more of the rookie quarterbacks. I do believe in obviously Caleb Williams is an obvious one, but I want to see more of Joe Milton. Joe Milton was exciting for the Patriots. Weird that they drafted 2 quarterbacks in the same year, but Joe Milton looks like that guy who potentially is going to overtake Drake May, potentially. I'm excited to see more of the wide receivers take place as well. Malik Neighbors,
Bengals
Lad
got a good
McConkey.
receiver too.
Oh yeah, Jermaine Burton.
Yeah, he was really good. It was like, okay, I could see how you'd be fine getting rid of T. Higgins. Maybe he's not as good, but he's going to be that great slot receiver for them, at least what we saw from him. But he made some spectacular plays.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think he's going to be exceptional. I'm excited for it.
But said you watched The Dark Knight again recently?
Yeah, I watched it this Thursday. Tell you what, it's been like a decade since I watched The Dark Knight. And I got to be honest, rewatching it, who's the protagonist? Because when I was watching it, I was rooting for the Joker in that movie. Like the Joker, he takes over every scene. And obviously, everyone knows, Heath Ledger, best Joker at this point. But throughout the movie, I felt like I was consistently rooting for the Joker more than I was rooting for Batman. And I don't know if it was him anti-establishment, the way he robbed the bank, just him being just kind of a savage, honestly. But the Joker, to me, when you rewatch The Dark Knight, you realize he's kind of like the protagonist in this movie.
Yeah, it's kind of The Dark Knight has very similar vibes with the town, not necessarily with the romantic, I guess a little bit with the romantic relationship between Harvey Dent and Rachel. Then you have that love triangle there, but just with you're rooting for the bad guys. But it comes to a point where when you look at the Joker's motive, he's creating chaos, but you learn why he's creating chaos, which is to disrupt a system that has been so corrupt, so bought and paid for, so malign that it created someone like him who would come out of nowhere, create these chaotic events, and then show people how thin the line of the fabric holding society together is, where one guy who's a little bit crazy can take over the mob, can disrupt an entire city, and he's kind of showing you like, hey, all of these people are corrupt. He has a message about someone in power who's supposed to be fighting him, the quote unquote good guys. And then you kind of just have Batman there throughout the movie who's like, the people corrupt deserve real justice. And he doesn't really get anywhere. And I feel like the frustrating thing with Batman is, sure, he fights the villains who are a threat to also to society, but he also doesn't ever really solve the root problem which is causing it, because he'll never go that far to take on the establishment, if you will.
Yeah, because in a way, he is the establishment as Bruce Wayne. One thing I hate about just the Batman aura, can he just fucking kill them? Like, just kill him. Like, I hate the murder thing. Like, I understand it's his morals and everything, but like, he's a billionaire who pulls the strings of the city and Gotham City himself. Like, Bruce Wayne has his own evil tendencies to some extent. Just kill them. Like, it's way easier than like, I don't understand like the way that he fights these villains is just beating them up really bad by just throwing a couple of punches. Like, this is when it takes me out of the movie. I'm like, no, give me some fucking realism. I want to see some fucking guts on the floor. These people deserve it. Some of these monsters, maybe not the Joker, but like some freaks like the Riddler, take the fucking Riddler out. Kick their fucking ass. I don't want to hear like, oh, I don't kill people. Kill them. Fuck them. Kill them. I don't want to hear it. These people should be murdered, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
The thing with Batman villains too is, notice how they always come back.
Yeah. Always. They always come back. You got the Riddler.
And it's not it's not a situation where you look at the Batman villains where, oh, maybe there's not enough evidence to convict them, so if I kill them, then it would be like a wrong like instance of justice, where Batman clearly knows that someone who has enhanced superpowers like Bane is going to escape a prison. The Joker, who repeatedly does it, won't kill them. And they actually explore that. I don't know if you've seen Under the Red Hood. If not, you should check it out on Max. But it's basically one of the Robins gets killed by the Joker, and then he turns into Red Hood, who's kind of a Deadpool anti-hero character who, instead of fighting crime, just controls it at the top, and he kills all of the crime bosses ahead of him. And he resents Batman because Batman had plenty of opportunities to kill the Joker, but didn't, which led to him being killed and having to be revived in the Lazarus pit, which is kind of like a good like dialogue of that. So I think you'd enjoy it.
Yeah, I hate the dead, like the not killing people thing. I think you should just kill them, as far as I'm concerned. And then the other thing, and I actually saw a really funny take from First Take when the movie initially came out, them debating it, but it's so
From First
true.
Take.
Yeah, First Take. I gotta send you the clip. It's Stephen A. and
And
Skip
Skip.
arguing about it, and it's hilarious.
That's
But
awesome.
But Maggie Gyllenhaal as Rachel wasn't impressed. Like, she's not. They needed a better actor. Like, that was the wrong casting. They had Anne Hathaway as Catwoman in Batman or Dark Knight Rises. That was a great casting, exceptional. And I believe they had somebody else in I forget who was in Batman Begins, but it was a different actress, and that
Yeah, it
makes
was
sense.
Katie Holmes.
Yeah,
It's
Katie Holmes. I'm like, okay, perfect sense. I don't know why Katie Holmes didn't come back. I think that was her Tom Cruise era. But Maggie Gyllenhaal, like, the recasting made no sense, and her chemistry with Bruce Wayne just didn't exist, and it didn't really exist with Harvey Dent either. I'm like, Maggie Gyllenhaal was the wrong casting there, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And I mean, we kind of weren't at that era yet, but I wouldn't even mind if they recast Rachel as Jake Gyllenhaal, and I think he would have been a better choice than Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Hey, Jake Gyllenhaal's a handsome guy, more handsome than Maggie Gyllenhaal, so why not?
Yeah, because I think they recast her, Katie Holmes, because people complained about her in Batman Begins. So okay, let's recast Rachel, and it ended up turning out worse. It's kind of where some people complained about that movie. But overall, did you think it was still the best superhero movie of all time, or do you have something else that you'd maybe put above it?
I think it's extremely influential. Like you can see how it, because that came out in 2009 or 2008, and you can
Mhm.
see how like that kind of led to like the next generation of superhero movies. But then we've had a lot of really great superhero movies over the last 20 years since, roughly. And so, like, whether it's a movie like Logan that you can shout out, honestly, even though I think I think the the grittiness of the Dark Knight is great, but I also think that like some of these other technical accomplishments, the Avengers combining all the superheroes is a really big thing there, especially with Endgame. Those can be shouted out, and then standalone superhero movies as well. But I think it deserves its praise for it, but it's not a perfect movie. It's definitely not a perfect 10 by any means, but it's an enjoyable watch, and when you rewatch it, you pick up a lot of different things.
Yeah. Is it just me though, or I don't know? I never liked Christian Bale's Batman voice.
I just I think the problem with Christian Bale as Batman, it's not that he's a bad Batman. It just feels like he's above the rest of the city. Where like hell, even like Michael Keaton, or if that's the right guy I'm thinking of, the guy who was the original Batman, Michael Keaton.
Yeah, Michael Keaton.
Um, he was like a slick, like cool Batman, um, and maybe a little bit of goofiness, which I think is what's needed in a Batman series. George Clooney in the infamous Batman and Robin, um,
The
similar,
bat
where it was like,
nipples, no.
yeah, the bat nipples, like it's goofy. Like I think Batman should be a little more goofy because that's kind of what he is. But this one, like, he just feels like he's a little bit more dry and a little bit too like he's kind of like more broy than he should be.
Mm,
You know?
that makes sense. Yeah, because honestly, I thought that Ben Affleck's Batman, well, he wasn't in better movies, felt more like Batman.
Yeah. He's also like super built too when he did
Yeah,
it.
he's super built. Christian Bale definitely got built for the role too, but also with The Dark Knight, I like The Dark Knight, but I know it's most people's favorite movie in the trilogy, but my favorite movie of that trilogy is The Dark Knight Rises, just because I like seeing Batman get beat to hell, because I think it's absolutely cartoonish that he can compete with Superman in the comics, where you have the meme where would you take this superhero or Batman with time to prepare? Like, he's still just a dude. Like, just because he
Hmm.
has all the money and resources doesn't mean he should be beating aliens, Superman, Thor, the Incredible Hulk, like whatever hypothetical you want to throw it out there. Is he still just a guy? Okay. So that's where
Yeah.
like the more fantastical Batmans lose me a little bit, where I think it should be, if you're gonna just have a guy be this all powerful ninja superhero, just make it a little bit cartoonish, because when you try and make yourself grounded and a little bit too serious, then you're already a little cartoonish on its own, and it's hard to take serious when he's doing all these stunts.
Yeah. I can agree with that. As far as The Dark Knight Rises, that's a movie I should rewatch next because Bane, Tom Hardy, another like if Heath Ledger wasn't right there, like right 3 years before, I think they would be putting that in a way higher level than where it currently is. I like Bane, like Dark Knight Rises is also exceptional. You have better casting. Um, as a football fan, you have a Heinz Ward sighting, which is always cool. Blowing up the stadium, like Bane was crazy, and the shit that he did was just as crazy as the Joker. So I think The Dark Knight Rises. I enjoyed it a lot when I saw it, and I couldn't really pick when it initially came out. So maybe go back and appreciate that. Maybe we'll do a review of that down the road.
Yeah, because I definitely think Bane is right up there with Heath Ledger's Joker, and he
Hmm.
has some really good scenes in there. Maybe doesn't chew up the scenery as much, but I thought he's definitely a close second. And I like the storyline of kind of seeing Bruce Wayne get beaten down there. But the problem with The Dark Knight Rises, kind of everyone had a sour taste in their mouth because of the unfortunate events that happened when it came out in 2013
Yeah, talking about the
with the
Boston bombings.
Colorado situation.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's true. Yeah, I'll have to rewatch it and give my thoughts on it. But I remember really enjoying it and putting it right up there with The Dark Knight. So I'm interested to see it when I rewatch it, what I think about it.
Yeah, definitely rewatch the whole trilogy there, and then compare it to some of the older Batman movies where, with Christopher Nolan, he's one of those directors I feel like takes himself really seriously with all of his movies, where everything has to be super grounded, super realistic, and a little bit dour and depressing in his movies. I'm sure with
Yeah.
Oppenheimer, like the whole movie, it's like the weight of the world on this one man's shoulder, and you just feel that entire momentum the whole movie. And then Oppenheimer, you're like, oh, cool, the movie's over. No, we have another
No.
hour of a court case because we're
Yep.
trying the guy we like forced to make nuclear weapons who didn't want to do it. Okay, now we're gonna try him for it, and Robert Downey Jr. is gonna prosecute him. And okay,
Yep.
if the first part wasn't enough for you with creating something that could literally end humanity, then we're gonna put him on trial for it and make it even more depressing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that why wouldn't they, right? Yeah, I agree. But yeah, no, Dark Knight was great. And then as far as like everything else we talked about today, like I would recommend Madden if you don't care about spending the $60 on it, like myself, who I know I'm going to play the shit out of it. Like I'd recommend Madden. I think Madden's good. And then excited for preseason week 2. Like it's going to be, we get to see some more faces, and we're just a little bit closer to the regular season.
Oh, we're so close. It's gonna be here a lot faster because we're already almost halfway through August by the end of this week, which is crazy. And
Wow.
by the time it comes up, it's going to be September 12th, and that's the kickoff with Chiefs and Ravens, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's September 8th because I
September 8th.
believe, yeah, because it's Chiefs Ravens Thursday Night Football, which I might be in Austin by then. So that could be exciting.
Definitely. We'll have to definitely stream that if you are in Austin. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, Austin's been cool. I went to the weird thing with Austin is you were out here. They just have people trying to get you into bars, even on like Saturday
Yeah.
nights. Like those how like, oh, we'll give you free drinks, or we'll be like, this bar is doing free drinks for women. This bar is doing free drinks for midgets because Eminem said it was okay to say. But this guy walks up to us and he's like, we'll give all of you a free drink, and we have a 2-story slide in our bar.
Oh, sold.
Yeah, so we walk in there, and our 2 free drinks were fish bowls, but it was literally, it felt like 40 ounces of straight lemonade. Couldn't taste any alcohol in it. He's like, yeah, here's some free lemonade. Tasted like a mocktail. I can't drink this. So went down the slide once and had to leave.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine there had to be some sort of catch to free drinks. They got to get people in the door, I suppose. But the slide, I mean, that was enough for the free drink, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was free, and you just stop in there and just ditched it and left. But it is funny because we started negotiating with them because you'll have 2 guys standing outside a bar. Well, they're offering us this. Can you give us another free shot or throw in something else? What are you going to do to get us in here? And then you can start bartering. And most people don't take that opportunity, but you can do it, especially during the week. Since they'll do free drinks for the ladies. So, all right, you just take the drink. We'll like trade every other drink per bar, and you have
Yeah.
a free night.
Yeah, it's so sick that they do that. Just competing with each other. That's wild. Was it like that in Nashville?
No, Nashville is a scam. Nashville is, most people have probably been to Broadway. You condense like and street where most streets go on for pretty long. It's really not that long. And they condense it with all of these 4 to 5 floor buildings. And Tennessee not only has a sales tax, but they also have a liquor tax. So you're getting double taxed on everything you buy.
Oh, that sounds shitty.
Yeah, and it was a Sunday night, and everything was busy. Where Austin 6th Street is pretty long, and you have Rainy Street, so it's a little bit more spread out. So you kind of have to get people in there. But Nashville's just one packed street, and 3 shots is $45. It's crazy.
Oof.
Yeah, it's
Oh
like
yeah,
$45 for 3 green tea shots. It's a
yeah,
nightmare.
that's a complete scam. Have you checked out like because you guys are more like on the outskirts of Austin, it sounds like. Have you checked out like some of the local like places that are within walking distance, like different bars there?
Yeah, there's like definitely a lot of things around. Like you can't walk anywhere without running into a Mexican place. So the food here is definitely really good. We're only 4 minutes away from the mall, and adjustment in Texas is they're like, yeah, you can just open carry alcohol in the mall, and they have a bar there as well. So it's encouraged.
Oh, that's sick. So you can just
Yeah,
buy a bottle of booze and just open it up.
yeah, pretty much.
That's sick. That's how it should be.
Yeah. And they have a 2-floor grocery store, like the Hannaford here is HEB. So it's 2 floors. They have escalators for carts, and they also have a bar in it, and it's open till 11 at night.
That's sick. Do they have
Yeah,
like
for a
a
grocery
food?
store.
Do they have like a sub shop there too?
Yeah, yeah, they have like food shops there too, like Market Basket.
Oh, good. Yeah, because that's important. That shit. Those are always the best. Believe it or not, those sub
Yeah,
shops that are like $6 for a sub. That's a game changer.
yeah. I mean, it's all the same deli meat you're getting for the most part. So
Yeah, that's
the
crazy.
best, yeah, the best spot though for like fast food has been P. Terry's. I don't know if you've had that before.
What's it called?
P. Terry's.
P. Terry's. I don't think I've had that. I don't. Is that a burger spot?
Yeah, it's a burger spot. It basically tasted like $5 Burger King. So it's like not as good as Burger King, but they had like a pepper jack cheese that was actually spicy and got like 2 burgers, a shake, banana bread, fries for like $30 on DoorDash.
Oh, that's sick. Yeah, I've
It's
never heard
not
of this
bad at
place
all.
before. I'm curious where they're near because I think that might be like a West Coast or like Central America, like U.S. thing. That's cool though.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, there's certainly none
The
in New Hampshire.
yeah, the only thing we haven't tried is Cane's. We like just looked at the menu and all they had was chicken tenders. Is it worth it or just go for the chicken tenders?
Go for the chicken tenders and get extra cane sauce, and I think you'll like it. The Texas toast is legit. If you've had Dave's, it's like less spicy Dave's, basically.
Less spicy Dave's, but pretty
I
much
like
the
it better
same
than
thing.
Dave's. I like it better than Dave's personally, but I apparently ordered the wrong thing according to Jake. So
You
um,
ordered the wrong thing.
I don't know. I got the fucking bread that wasn't bread, and like it was literally just a slice of bread straight out of a loaf for me. So I wasn't a big Dave's fan. The chicken was good, but it was overpriced. It's cheaper than Dave's. The chicken maybe is less seasoned, but the cane sauce is legit and the Texas toast is legit.
Yeah, Dave's is pretty expensive for fast food. Not
It's
gonna lie,
overpriced.
and it's one of those places that I like the idea of it, and I like it while I'm eating it, but after it's feel like absolute dog woof. It's not good at all.
I had Dave's and I was hungry after still because it just didn't fill me up at all. I'm like, this isn't. I'm not getting this. I was a Dave's hater. I think I'm gonna stay on the Dave's hater train.
Yeah, you might as well. I mean, everyone it was one of those new things where it moved in, had a massive line there, but it's a little bit too expensive, so I'd rather go somewhere still like hate to say it, but KFC is still an OG place. Um, Popeyes is still really good. Chick-fil-A, I would still rather go to, and Chick-fil-A is probably the best out of that group of four, the chicken places.
KFC.
Yeah. No, not Chick-fil-A. Would you? I think Chick-fil-A is still like the best out of like Cane's, Dave's, um,
Yeah.
KFC, Popeyes.
Yeah, I just want the best on Sunday. Shame.
Not the best on Sunday. I know that happened when we were driving on one side of the highway on a Sunday through New York, and they have all of the rest stops when you go through upstate New York. And on our side, thankfully, we had Popeyes, but on the other side, all the rest stops had Chick-fil-A, and that was pretty much the only restaurant there, unless you wanted to go to like Apple Greenery, whatever that place is.
Nah, fuck that. Nah, screw that. I'm planning my trip out. I'm gonna go to Virginia, Nashville, Austin, El El Paso, and then
El
AZ.
Paso, really? Going
Yeah,
right on the border there?
yeah, I've heard it's actually one of the safest cities in the country, believe it or not.
Really?
So, yeah, it's actually pretty
Yeah.
safe. The crime rate's pretty low.
It looks like a cool place. Like it's right on the border. It's kind of the desert area of Texas there.
Yeah.
How
No, it
long's
looks
the drive
dope.
from El Paso to Phoenix?
6 hours.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah. No, it's not bad. I might find a stop between Nashville and Austin, or I might just have a day of just driving and I'll be exhausted. But um, I figured just trek out and go to Austin and just fucking do the journey. Why not?
Yeah, push through it. Are you gonna give yourself any days in between, or just push through every day?
I'm gonna leave on like a Friday, see Eldred, and then see Eldred for like a day. Leave on like a Saturday or Sunday morning. Go to Nashville. I probably won't spend all that much time in Nashville. I'll like get there, have a few drinks, and then like get up early and go to Austin the next day. And then I'd rather spend more time in Austin and in Virginia than like in Nashville on like a Monday. So
Yeah,
that's all
I
there.
would go to I would go to like the Country Music Hall of Fame if you get there in time.
Yeah. Or I can go. I want to go to the pyramids too. That's sick.
You have to stop at the Bass Pro Shops Pyramid. That's in Memphis, so it'll be on your way. But you
I
have to
have
have
to.
a burger at the top of the pyramid.
Yeah, that sounds insane. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's one of the most bizarre places. Like I didn't really know it existed, but I'm like, hey, you should stop at the Bass Pro Shops Pyramids. Like, what is that? Well, it's a Bass Pro Shops that has an elevator that's 330 feet in the sky. They have a Ducks Unlimited museum. They have actual gators in
That's
there.
insane.
There's a duck swimming around. I don't know if they clipped its wings or is an injured duck, but there was a duck in there. They had a gar. They had $6 Bass Pro Shops trucker hats. Can't get better than that. And then there
I would
was
buy those.
also a bowling alley in there as well with Wahlburgers attached to it.
Oh, fuck Wahlburgers. But I was telling people in Germany about the pyramid because I had no idea it existed, and it blew their mind and made them want to go to America so bad. It was awesome.
Yeah,
It's like it's the eighth largest pyramid in the world.
it's the largest one in North America.
And it's a Bass Pros. God damn it. That's crazy.
Yeah. It made like, and you can see the cool thing is like when you're at the top of it, you can see the Arkansas state line on the bridge. So it's right there.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that
But
is
you
cool.
look at it and you're like, why are the Grizzlies in Memphis instead of Nashville? Because Memphis had a skyline that was not very impressive at all. It was like two buildings.
Yeah, I don't know why they went to. Then they came from Vancouver initially. They went to Memphis. I'm like, I feel like Nashville would have been cooler.
The Vancouver, yeah.
They were the Vancouver Grizzlies. That didn't make sense.
Send them to Vegas. They're already in the West, so either move them to Nashville or send them to Vegas because you already have like the Predators play in Nashville, the Titans
Yeah,
play in Nashville. So why do the Grizzlies play on the other side of the state 3 hours away?
I don't know. It'd be a lot easier to just make them the Nashville Grizzlies. I feel like that would work fine. But I don't know. These sports teams just don't get it sometimes.
Yeah. Is that any? Have you gone out at all? Any crazy night out stories where anything cursed happened, or just kind of the usual?
No, actually, maybe we went out. Me and Tyler, and then another work friend went out to Nashua,
Tyler. Ayo. What's
a
up, Tyler?
Nashua crawl.
A
Yeah, we're on
Nashua crawl?
Yeah, Nashua is a city. It's basically like picture Elm Street with maybe like an extra like quarter mile, but every other place is like a bank, a dentist, or like a grocery. Like it's just as many bars, but like a little bit longer. And it's like I think there's maybe 6 or 7 bars that we went to, and they were all just average bars. They had a margaritas there. Fuck margaritas, you know that. This place called Casey McGee's was like its version of McGarvey's, kind of. Um, there was a club there where
A
we
club
were
in Nashua.
yeah. Um, we were walking, and this like had this like girl walked by, and she was cute. She was talking with her friend. We ended up talking to them, and then this woman across the street just starts screaming at this guy. She's like, "Get away from me! Get away from me! I'll kick your ass! Get away from me!" And she's screaming bloody murder across the street.
Oh God,
And
that's not good.
we're just looking. We're like, "What's going on over here? This is just like funny." We're just kind of standing there. And then she crosses the street and goes on our side of the street. And she's like, "This guy is a rat. Get him out of here. Leave me alone." And just starts screaming. The guy that she was yelling at was the same guy who was trying to sneak a White Claw into one of the bars. And the bar owner was like, he was basically trying to say like that he like got it from the bar. The guy's like, "Dude, we don't sell White Claws here in cans. Like, this isn't my, like, you didn't get it from us. Like, get the fuck out of here." That same guy we see, and he's just like, "She's shit faced. She's got to go home. Like, she's just fucking being a bitch. I'm just trying to bring her home."
Oh
I'm
yeah, I'm
like,
sure. White Knight.
yeah. And it turns out they were brother and sister. I don't know. But either way, as we're
Huh.
leaving, we try to go to one bar, but it's closed. So we go the opposite direction. We run into them again, and they're talking to the cops. And the lady's just like, "Yeah, these people were standing with us," and they point to us. I'm like, "No, no, 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 don't. We weren't. Nope, we were nothing involved in this. Like, nope, we're not. We're not. Don't include us here. We were just standing there." Yeah, nothing else though. No
They
other.
really tried to implicate you, like, no, we were just existing. We weren't with
We were
them
just
at
near you.
all. I would
Like, we
like to
don't
talk
care.
to my lawyer now, who's on retainer doing nothing.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, we don't give a fuck. Go ahead and fight. Do your thing. I could care less.
Yeah.
What a nightmare.
Yeah, Nashua just seems kind of boring, though. Same with Manchester. It's like you're in a state as small as New Hampshire that most people don't know is a state. You're going to get bored.
You get bored pretty quick. Honestly, I have my love for Manchester. I have a special place in my heart for. Nashua, I don't. It's basically just Manchester, but closer to Massachusetts. So it's worse in my mind.
Yeah. You've still been running.
Yeah, I've been running. I'm going for a run tomorrow as well.
Nice. Hopefully
I feel
it's
like I've
not
lost
50
some body
degrees.
fat. No, it's hard now that it's literally getting cold again. I'm like, okay, that's fantastic. It's a low of 57 today. They're like, "Oh, it's nice." No, it's cold. I don't want that. I don't want
It's
57.
August. What do you mean it's nice?
Yeah, I'm like,
It's
it was
still summer.
it's a high of 79 today. I'm like, it's the summertime. I want 90 degrees, 100 degrees.
Yeah.
So it should be. Nope, not in this state.
Has it been super rainy or has it been pretty mild compared to like the last few summers? Because usually it
No.
rains every single weekend.
No, it's been super. It's been like mostly hot and humid, but the last couple of days it's been cold. I'm like, nope, I'm not. I already see the tea leaves. I need to get the fuck out of here. I'm leaving. I gotta go. I can't stay here for another winter. I'll go fucking schizo. You'll see me on the nightly news.
Yeah.
I'm not doing
That's
another
good,
year
though.
here.
No. Yeah. It being 50 now, though, is definitely an incentive to leave. So I'm excited to see you go to Phoenix in September.
Yeah, a couple of weeks technically. If I get the job, I get the interview Friday. If they don't hire me, I'm just leaving anyways. I'm just gonna move. So
Yeah,
if
there's
they're
so many
nice.
other things to do in a city as big as Phoenix. Like my friend here also moved here and he was working for a distributor, but he's literally just been buying and selling gym equipment from all the people who are moving out of Texas and just reselling it on places like Facebook Marketplace and making more than enough money doing that. So when you live in a city big enough where you have that much traffic, like something like that, definitely doable.
Yeah, you can make some cash if you need to. I think I feel very confident that I'll get this job. But if they are stupid and don't do that, then I'm just gonna move anyways because I'm not gonna stick in cold weather any longer. I'm over it. I'd rather be sweating my balls off near the pool than bundling up by the fire at this point in my life.
Yeah, because you can sweat your balls off by the pool and then, jump in and you're good.
Exactly. You're cooled off.
Plus, dry heat really isn't that bad at all. Like, it's been 90 to 100 pretty much every day the past few weeks. And when we go to the pool at night and it's 90 degrees, it feels like 70 degrees because it's dry heat. But
That's
when
what
it's
I
humid,
tell people.
then 80 is unbearable. Then you get to like 90s and the hundreds. But if you have 100 and it's dry heat, sure, it's like hot during the day, but it's not unbearable.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. Dry heat's what I prefer. Like it's 105, but it feels like it's 90. Not humid. I'm like, I'll take that every day of the week, anytime.
Yeah.
Now, when it gets to 115, maybe I'll leave the state a little bit, but I'm not that far from California, so maybe I'll go to California then
Yeah, go
to
to
visit.
California then. Or, central air is a lot more powerful than using AC units throughout the house.
Yes, yes, exactly. No more space
I
heaters either.
Yeah, I have my like central air set to 75 right now, and I'm literally able to wear a jacket inside.
That's elite. Yeah, that's how it should be.
Yeah, not how many space heaters do I need to get to heat my house so it's 50 degrees?
Yeah, so I can fucking see my breath in my room. Quite honestly, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the jump, as I mentioned. But
Yeah,
soon enough, we will be ready and acclimated. Then you'll come out for the Cardinals game, and I'll come out for a Texans game,
yeah.
and we'll rip it up.
What Cardinals game are we going to see? Rams of Stetson Bennett starting?
If I look at the Cardinals game, it's hard to know right now, but if not, you should come out for New Year's. That would be fun.
New Year's would be lit in Arizona.
You should.
That'd be
I
awesome.
think
Yeah. New Year's in Arizona, and then next year for New Year's, I want to go to Miami.
Miami. I could probably make Miami happen.
Yeah.
I could see. Well, yeah, we could see Rams and Cardinals. Rams come September 15th, or for your birthday weekend. Oh wait, no, for my birthday, November 3rd, Caleb Williams comes to town.
That's a good matchup. It's like tall
Yeah,
Kyler versus Kyler.
Kyler. Yeah,
Regular height Tyler.
against Kyler. Short Kyler versus big Kyler.
Yeah. Yeah, that would work because it gets like inconsistent weather wise, but Arizona in November, December is probably the prime time to go there. And the flights from Texas to Phoenix shouldn't be that expensive.
Like $80, $100. It's not bad at all.
Yeah. So expensive. I'm trying to go to Michigan for my friend's wedding, and it's like $200 because no one wants to go to Detroit or Kalamazoo.
Yeah.
Like most of the flights were a 4 to 6 hour layover in Dallas, and if you get a direct one, the cheapest for two people is like 800.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's
That's
not the
brutal.
worst, but
That's brutal. Yeah, I basically have to move and then go back to New Hampshire like a couple of weeks later. So when Angel has her visit Friday, I'm going to be like, "Hey, I'm moving. How should I move Angel with me?" And she's going to be like, they're gonna say three things. They're either going to say have her fly with you, have her ride with you, or kill her.
or give
So
her
one of the
away,
two.
which may
No, like
kill her.
or just murder her. I'm like, I'm not gonna murder her. I'll let her die in peace.
Yeah.
Let her do her thing.
No. Yeah, cats that hate the world too live forever. Like the cats that
Exactly.
you expect the least to go for a while are usually the ones that end up 30. It's like I believe the oldest cat right now is 34.
That's gonna be Angel. She's gonna be 34.
Yeah, she's been screaming.
Yes, naturally. And now she just scream like it's just us there. She'll just scream, and I'll just go in the other room like, "Why are you screaming?" And she's just like lost.